Grandmother used to have them killed by the sheikhs, and then she would pluck them, and my mother and Lottie and everybody would help her pluck them, and she'd make them for supper.
Yeah. How did that help Uncle Sidney's ego?
Well, his father so deflated his ego that it had to, sort of like Dad with me. Dad said to me, "Give him a kiss hello," which I thought was the end of life. So I gave him a kiss hello, and he said to Uncle Sidney, "And how about you, girlie or miss," or some derogatory word.
Uncle Sidney.
Because he and Dad lit cigarettes, and Sidney did not smoke. And he said that that was a sign of feminine. He didn't use the word feminine,
Yeah.
whatever word he used. But he would talk to Sidney about like this all the time.
No kidding. Oh.
At their 25th anniversary party, we all walked in together, and Uncle Sidney and Aunt Gertie came in formal wear that their friends had convinced them to wear. And Dad said, "Here comes the schmuck in the tux." And Mother remembered it too, because we had reminisced about it when she was alive.
So what do you think bothered him so much about him?
About Sidney?
Yeah.
I don't know.
How much his younger brother? Why did he have,
He said that he was stupid.
Oh, he didn't.
Are you recording this?
Everything.
Oh, no, I have to get my hair done.
He didn't.
He said he couldn't
didn't mind his
sign.
brother.
He couldn't sign his own name,
Oh.
and of course he worked for Dad, and he
Yeah.
worked hard.
I think he felt that Sidney was a weakling,
Yeah.
and he was the strength, and
Yeah.
he would drive to New York, and the boys would sit in the back, something like that, with him.
No, he
Who would sit in the
talked
back?
about Sidney. I would sit in the back. Mike and I.
Yeah, with Uncle Sidney in the front.
Yeah.
Yeah. You work for Dad too?
In the summertime, Mike and I.
What did Jody say? You didn't call me?
He's coming up. We're gonna meet her at Costco.
She said she's waiting for me to call her. I said, "Why would I call you?" She said, "She's coming over." She said, "No, I told you to call me."
You said, well, you just called me, so let's talk.
So,
Who cares?
So it sounds to me that Dad and Aunt Jean were the strong ones.
It
Yeah.
was John Dirksen.
They were thought of it that way. And Aunt Lottie and what's her name, Jeanette, and Uncle Sidney.
Oh, I didn't
were
know
the
that
weak
Lottie
ones.
was born here.
Oh, I didn't know.
Marshall's
that.
home. I thought he came over with 2 children.
Yeah.
He came over with 1 child, Jean,
With his wife?
with his wife.
I thought he had left his wife.
No.
Oh,
He
she
came
died?
over with his wife,
Oh, I don't know that.
and then Lottie was born, and she died.
Oh, here.
But Marcia does not remember what she died of. But she's told me that Lottie was born here,
But
and I didn't know that.
They were all older than that. I mean, not what.
No, I don't know why their mother died. And then Grandma had a sister who died, and that's how Miriam came into the family.
That's right.
There were 3 children, and
Yeah.
3 different families took a child.
Yeah. And Miriam, all right.
And
Well, I
everything-
thought Uncle Sidney was a bully. I mean, people see people from their own point of view. I was telling John about triangles. When you're born into a triangle. It's you and your mother and your father, and you and your mother and your father, so it's a triangle.
Yes.
And you're born into some relationship with those people. And that experience, really affects the way you are involved with other relationships.
Could be. I don't know.
I mean, so you were born into a triangle as the firstborn. That was very dynamic triangle, right?
I
But really-
honest to God don't remember, Linda. I was 2 years old when Mike was born. So the triangle didn't last too long.
No, but
It was
Because then-
square.
Then it becomes, that's what I said. Then it became square, so that's what it was. So I was not part of some
yes, you were.
unique triangle. You were, because you were a girl.
Yeah, but you think of your firstborn child, you're Jody for 2 years. That relationship colors everything else that happens after that. Whatever you think or not, she became the focus. Jody was, because she does everything first. And I think
Yeah,
the
because you're the
firstborn-
first one. The first one is
And
your
the first one is everything you do.
Right. The first one is the first one, that's it.
What role did, John never knew them,
Who?
grandmother play
Rolling.
in your life?
They were both very sweet, very lovely ladies. Mother's mother did not speak English too well, but she always asked me if I wanted a banana every time we came. Every time we came there, she lived with Sadie. Do you want a banana? No.
She's the
Booby,
one
we
that
call
was
her.
hanging out in the Bronx.
She was the one in that picture, yeah.
Hang out of the window again. Yeah, yeah.
Dad's mother was a dynamite lady.
Was she?
Yeah, just a wonderful, as I remember her, a wonderful, wonderful, as Marcia remembers her also. And we all liked her very much, and then she got sick, and she was young. I think she had a mastectomy. I remember, I know she did, because she came back from the hospital and moved in with Aunt Lottie. And, but she was a very lovely lady, and he was a very brutal man. And when they lived with us, they lived with us for a while.
Before
Yeah.
I was born. Where?
In Bay 29th Street.
Not an
And-
apartment?
In that apartment.
On the 6th floor they lived there?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I remember Mother screaming, yelling to Dad that she can't stand to be with them because he's so miserable to her. And for Epstein, I never did. And I thought he was a real nice guy, like a Prussian. He was always very straight and religious and kosher. Dave was a sick old man, that's what he was. He was sick.
Yeah, he lost a leg, right?
Can I ask you, what do you know about where your parents were born?
I don't
and
know
where
anything
and
about
where their parents were born? What is the earliest family history
My
that you know?
mother's family came from Poland.
Do you know a town in Poland?
No. I have no idea.
Your mother's family came from Poland.
Right.
Where was your
And
mother?
my grandfather said he married my grandmother because he wanted to come to the United States and he needed a strong woman. And he saw her, she was an orphan.
She was an orphan?
Yeah.
Huh?
Your mother's mother was an orphan.
Yes,
How do you know that?
because my mother told me.
Yeah.
And he saw her down at the water, at the well, washing clothes or something. And she was a very strong lady, evidently. And he married her.
Did you know your grandmother, your maternal grandmother?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure. She lived with Aunt Sadie on Kelly Street.
When did they come to the U.S.?
I don't know. We know because we put
Before,
that thing.
yeah, before World War II.
My father was
One.
born in 1906
Where?
in the United States.
Where?
And they came with Jean, and Jean was 2 years old when they came here, which made it 1904. So they made us to come around that.
No. Before that, because Dad was 06, and then Jean was how many years older than Dad?
2.
No. Lottie had to be born in there somewhere.
Yeah, but Lottie was only a few months, 9 months younger than Jean. They were very close in age.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But Dad was positively the elm tree of that family.
The alpha. He was the alpha.
When Jean wanted to get a divorce, he told her she couldn't, and she didn't. So she lived her whole life in misery. And later on, when Dad was older, when they lived in Florida, he told me he made a mistake,
Yeah.
that he should have let her divorce him. But, you got to remember, in those days, my mother and Rosie had a friend by the name of Ann Gayrod. And Ann Gayrod was a divorced woman, and my father would not let her in the house.
Really?
He wouldn't. He wouldn't let the maid sit down with us and eat, and he wouldn't let Ann Gayrod into the house.
And this is your dad?
My father. He was a very strong-willed person with a great sense of right and wrong, and he lived with that.
Your mother's father met your mother's mother in Poland.
Yes,
She was an orphan.
right.
And what about him? What about your maternal grandfather?
Aaron.
What was his name and her name?
Aaron,
Aaron.
and her name was Lydia.
No,
His name
Leah.
after Leah.
Leah
What
what?
were their last names?
Leah Rucha. Her name was Ruchalea,
And my name is Rebecca.
and your name is Leah Rucha.
It isn't really, it's really
I know.
Rebecca.
And Lori is named after her also.
What was your mother's maiden name?
I have no idea.
What was
And as far as I knew, she had one sister, Tante Tsippa, who married Uncle Mordechai, and they were very religious and very wealthy, my mother said. I don't know that they were
But
wealthy.
then
or
what
not.
happened was Mordecai came before World War One, and Sipper remained in Europe.
Yes.
And had to survive
And
in Europe. And World War One was just today's Armistice Day, right? But I'm sure Harriet's parents had this, well, grandparents had the same experience. She used to rob graves to stay. My mother said she used to rob graves.
Yeah, she was
After a
from there.
battlefield, they would go among the dead soldiers and steal whatever they could
Who
find.
would? My
A lot of
grandmother's
people
sister.
did.
A lot of people did.
But including my grandmother's
Sister.
sister.
Tante Zipper.
So-
And Dad told me if I didn't want to kiss Tante Zipper, I didn't have to.
She was very
But
grateful.
when you see her, he said, put your hand all the way out, then she won't be able to reach you.
What was your mother's father's full name? Aaron what?
Aaron Epstein.
Polanski.
Where, so.
Polanski.
But Epstein is his name.
They came when to the US?
Well,
Sadie born in this
Flo,
country?
my mother was born in 1916.
No, 13, no, 7 years younger.
13, I beg your
13.
pardon. And Flo was 10 years older than her, which made it 1903, and they were here by then.
Do you know how they came? Like from where?
No, I don't know anything
New
about
Where did
England?
they settle?
John, they didn't talk about these
No,
things.
they didn't.
They just didn't. And
They
my
didn't want to be
mother,
part of it anymore.
my mother, your mother is right. My mother really did not want to be part of that family,
Yeah,
and she disowned.
No.
She stopped. She really had nothing to do with her sisters, and
Who were really not nice
they
to
would
her.
go. Well, Flo was nice.
So, yeah,
to
but
them.
Sadie wasn't.
My father, when my grandmother, my mother's mother, was in the hospital dying, my father got into bed one night and he said to my mother, I'm going back to the hospital. And he was with her
Yeah,
when she died,
yeah,
holding her hand.
yeah.
But your mother wasn't.
Well,
No.
she had 3 children,
She had little children.
little
She couldn't
children.
go anywhere.
but he really loved her. She must have been really nice to him.
Oh, Grandma?
Yeah.
She was a very nice lady. How she got along with Sadie, I don't know. But she used to tell, Mother once left Dad, and she took Mike and I with her, and she went to Sadie's house because her mother was there. And I remember my grandmother saying to my mother, this is not my house. You cannot stay here.
Mm.
You have to go home. And I don't know how it happened, but Dad showed up, and he took us back to Brooklyn, back home.
Did he say that, get in a car, and she just
No,
followed?
no, I don't think so. I don't-
What did Aaron do for work?
He didn't work. He prayed.
He was a push car, he had push
My
car.
grandmother was the super of a building on Hester Street, Lower East Side, and that's how they lived. And he had a push cart, that he made a living in the push cart, I don't know, but you must understand, John, my mother hated him. My mother did not like him, so she very rarely talked about him, although he came over very often. But she claimed he molested her cousin. I don't really know. I don't know. There were all kinds of stories.
Did you knew Aaron, your grandpa?
I knew the four of them.
Was he nice to you?
Yes.
So your mother's mother was a super, meaning like she was a management?
Yeah.
No, that's not management.
Clean.
She washed the
He
floors
cleaned it.
of the building. She was responsible for
And they
the
lived
cleaning.
there too?
And they lived
Lower East Side?
Lower East Side.
Do you
And
remember the
then-
address?
No, but I took my mother there when she was in, after she left your mother's house, she came to New York. And I took her there, and Harriet and I said, that's the building. But the building was this magnificent co-op, because they had ripped down the building.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing we did see, and you saw it also, was that synagogue,
Yeah,
and that was Grandpa's synagogue.
yeah.
All right, so what about your father's
My
parents?
father
But
was,
he was a licensed plumber, right?
he was a socialist.
Who?
He left Europe.
Aaron still?
No,
David?
Dave. He left Europe because he was a
Oh, I didn't
socialist.
know that.
And he was escaping the
Oh,
Czar.
good, okay.
That's your father's father.
Right,
Yeah.
And where was he from? Russia?
yes. He was from Riga,
Riga.
Riga.
where your sister went.
What about your father's mother?
I am assuming, no. My grandfather came to the United States with a wife and a child, and they had another child. And the woman died, and her name was Molly, and that's why they're all with MS.
Oh,
And, which Marsha told me, Molly, okay. He had a friend by the name of Barney, Uncle Barney. Uncle Barney, I'll tell you a story about him. But Uncle Barney had a sister-in-law who was single. And she wanted to get married. So Dave married her. And that was my grandmother. And then my father was born, and then Sidney was born, and Jeanette was born, and Freddie was born, who unfortunately died. Well, they're all dead now. But
All right, so David had a wife before your grandmother.
yes, Molly.
And, okay. And then your father's second wife, your grandmother's
Yeah.
name was what?
Who, my grandmother?
Yeah.
Edith.
Where did
Edith
where did,
Darcy.
Edith Dorothy, and I have a cousin by that name. You should
No,
forget.
Where did they live?
No.
Where did they live? They lived on 81st Street. I was born and moved into the house they lived in, which was on 81st Street and Bay Parkway in Brooklyn. And they lived in that house
It
until
was repossessed.
my father decided he didn't want to support it anymore because everybody was living there and he was the only one working, so they lost it. And
Why did they lose it? I mean, if he was working, he didn't,
because he didn't want to pay the money, and mother did not want to live there.
oh,
And she wanted to live in the Bronx near Lottie. Lottie had moved to the Bronx. And she liked Lottie, and they were good friends. And she wanted to live there, not Lottie. So we moved to the Bronx, and Mike was born.
oh. Well, she was friends with Lottie.
Yes.
I didn't-
And then Lottie moved to 24th Avenue,
Oh.
and we moved to 24th Avenue. But then mother heard about a building going up on Bay 29th Street. That's where you moved.
Was that a new building?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the cell.
So the building got old.
But Louis Selinger and B. Selinger lived in that building.
And that building?
And as far as mother was concerned, that was it.
Yeah.
B. Selinger lived there, and then they moved to Bay 28th Street, and mother took over Horror Park.
No, that sixth floor apartment was. Oh,
6A
no.
was the Selinger's
No
apartment.
kidding.
And mother moved in there because, I don't know if I remember all this right, she had a navy blue, not linoleum, what else is other than the linoleum?
Tile.
No, it was not tile in those days. Anyway, kitchen floor, and mother thought this was the beginning of life. And you know the way mother was.
Yeah.
So,
No,
so
but
David,
we moved.
David was
Wait,
a
wait,
plumber?
Yes, he was a licensed
And
plumber,
he made a good living.
and he made a living
Yeah,
until he lost his leg and his toes.
yeah.
How did that happen?
He got sick, there was no circulation.
Addison, right? Same thing that Kennedy.
Yeah. And then he licensed, he let a plumber on Bath Avenue use his license so the guy could be in business. And they paid him, and he went there every day. And then he moved into Mrs. Cutler's building,
After Grandma died. or whatever.
after Grandma.
And that's after he moved out of, we bought the house on Shore Parkway, and he moved into the basement apartment.
No, he moved out before.
But he lived in that basement
He
apartment.
lived in that basement apartment.
Was he
and
the first
had-
tenant?
And he had a girlfriend by the name of Minnie.
Yeah.
And mother used to get very upset because they were having sex down there, and Mike and I used to
Oh.
sit on the steps listening and watching.
You did, the back steps?
Yeah, and the steps that led down to the washing machine.
Yeah.
And mother got
Oh,
very,
there was
very
no
upset.
door there at first.
No.
They're taking the door down.
And then he went to visit Freddie and Molly in Spring Valley, and while he was gone, she rented the apartment.
How did your parents meet?
My father worked for Miller Brothers.
Your father, what was he like when he was young, as far as you know?
Oh, he was
Where did he go
a,
to school?
he was a bright student. He made out like crazy. He used to call himself Arthur when he met girls
Why?
because he didn't want them to know his name.
More American too, you think?
What-
He
what-
Mark, you think
also-
Mark
No,
was
no,
more
no.
American? It was.
He and his cousin, he had a cousin, God, you knew them, a real nice guy, I don't remember his name. And he and this cousin would go to the mountains and hotels and meet girls, but they didn't want the girls to know who they were.
Why?
I don't know why, they were incognito. It's not like it is now, you go out with a girl, you get laid. In those days, you had to work at it, and they would come after you, and they'd want to marry you, and all the rest of it. And he didn't want anyone to know
How
who
did
he
you pick
was.
the name Arthur?
I have no idea.
It was A, and it was, must have been a popular.
Arthur Siebert was the cousin.
No.
Yes.
Really? Yeah,
He was the cousin that Dad hung out with.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
All right, so then what did he graduated high school and started to work?
No, he did not graduate high school. At 9th grade, he had to leave school because his father was not making a living and he had to go out and make a living. And he went to work for Miller Brothers, which was a hat band company.
At
And
ninth grade?
in Miller Brothers was a man by the name of Emil Klein. And Emil Klein was married to Sadie Klein. And Sadie Klein was my mother's sister.
Yeah.
So he got my mother a job. Emil got my mother a job at Miller Brothers. And one day my father bought her, now she was only
A
17.
chocolate bar.
A chocolate bar, right.
Oh, yeah.
And when she was 19, he married her.
What do you know about them
18,
dating or
18.
meeting?
18. Was
No,
it
I was
18?
born when she was 20.
No.
She was 20 years, well, she was 19, you're right. But she's actually 20 years older than I am.
No, she's 19 years older than you are. You were born a year after they were married.
I
You were
know.
11 months after.
And she was on her way to be 20. I was born in July, and in October she became 20.
Do you know where they were married?
So she was 19.
Yeah, she was married in
18.
Colonial Mansion.
Where I was married, where Dick was married,
Where
Uncle Mike was
Your
married.
mother was married, Mike was married, Letty was married, Jeannie was married.
They were all
Everybody
married?
got married, and Harriet and I got married.
And what did your mother's parents and your father's parents think of that union?
You know, I don't remember ever seeing them together. I really don't. Now, they might have been,
Why would they be there?
but I don't think they ever visited back and forth. Now, Sadie and Emil and their children would go to Firkins Mountain House.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know if they went once, twice, or 5 times, but I know that Arlene, Gloria, Mel, Mike, and I would play together. I don't know how many times they went. Flo never went up there because they didn't have any money. And I don't remember, I don't remember my in-laws ever being with my mother and
Oh,
father.
of course they were.
I don't remember.
I
Just at the
was
wedding.
the witness.
Just at the wedding.
Like,
I don't
forget it.
remember ever seeing, but then again, they lived so far apart, and in those days, it wasn't so easy to get around.
Not your in-laws, the other one.
Yeah,
I
they
mean-
lived, Grandma and Grandpa Epstein lived in the Bronx,
Yeah.
and Grandma and Grandpa lived
And they didn't
in
have
Hunter,
cars, and
or
they
they
had
lived
cars.
with one of their children in
Yeah, and they
Brooklyn.
didn't have cars.
So where did your parents
No,
live?
Grandpa had a car.
Yeah.
He had a super
Took me to
car.
school.
Yeah,
Where
absolutely.
did your parents live right after they were married?
On 81st Street
In Brooklyn.
in Brooklyn.
My mother really thought she was marrying that.
She was getting away from the Lower East Side.
Yeah,
She
was
married
marrying
a class guy. And she really felt that she was up and up.
Yeah.
So your father worked in the hat brim trim business?
Hat trim business. The name of his company was Hatfield
Much
Trimming
later,
Company.
Much later.
And that's where the fields come from.
The name Fields.
So he picked the name Fields
He
when
decided.
you were going to college.
No,
No,
I was
he
in high
picked it.
school. And he
Did you
decided.
come home and say the kids were making fun of you?
No.
No, but my mother was a.
My mother would say that. And my father had, when I was 13, on my saxophone case, the name Richard Fields put on there. And then when I was 15, he legally changed my name. They were still Firkin, but I was Fields. So John, I don't know what you're going to do with this thing, but I'm going to tell you right now, there is no one who knows us since I graduated from high school, that's including Mike Beluca, Mel Stye, Harriet and Herbie Merskin, who knows that our name was anything other than Fields.
Yeah.
I never,
And
ever.
don't you forget it.
But it means so much to you.
I
It means
never.
nothing to Mike and me to tell people what our name was.
Well, you can tell them anything you
Yeah,
want, what do
yeah.
I care?
But it's interesting.
I mean, I remember a lot of saying to me, I was proud to be a Firkin. Mother said, good for you. And then Gertie changed her name to Ferris, and that's because she called him one day hysterical,
Called who?
Uncle Sidney. And he was working in the Navy Yard at the time.
Yeah.
And she said, I'm going to divorce you if we don't change the name. And he was in an admiral's office answering the phone, and the admiral's name was Admiral Ferris. He said to her, okay, you tell everybody your name is Ferris.
Yeah.
So she did.
Yeah. Oh, really? That's how it came. I thought he did. It's interesting. He didn't want to have the same name as his brother anymore.
I don't really know why he did that. I never could quite
Probably
figure that out.
well. If his brother wasn't treating him well, Right? If his brother wasn't treating him well, why did he want to be
Yeah, but they were
associated?
always together. I mean, it was always house parties, and it wasn't that they were estranged from each
No,
other.
well, cousins club meetings.
Cousins club meetings, whatever it was.
Yeah, yeah.
So why Sidney did that, I don't know, but I think he was so happy to
Um,
get Gertie off his back that he said, Ferris, that's our name.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he changed it.
The kind of thing I was trying to explain to John was, you know, how mother really was the creative one. I mean,
Creative?
the creative one of the two of them. I mean, my father was solid, right? I mean, he was really, you say he was the elm tree. He was really the person you could rely on. He came home for supper every night. He probably didn't see around. If he did, not very much. And he was a reliable person.
He was.
And he was steady Eddie. He brought in a steady income. He didn't have to worry about that. You know, and with that came rigidity. This is the way you do it. This is my house.
You
do
know,
it my
I never
way.
thought to question his fidelity, and you just said that. That's interesting. That's because where you come from.
I know.
Do you think your father flew there?
No, I don't.
He
think my father-
absolutely, positively, without a shadow of a doubt, never did.
No. And he
How
would
do
go
you,
on business trips for 6 weeks. You were out of the house by then.
And I used to go on trips with him, and no, I'm telling you, no,
Did you think your mother ever flew there?
no.
Well,
I think maybe in Florida one time she did. I really
You
don't.
mean that? You mean later in life?
What happened was when Linda was about 10
And then he was 5.
and Eddie was a little boy, she would go to Florida. And I remember when I went away to college, she said, oh, I met this wonderful couple in Florida, and they would love to have you visit them. And the guy was a dentist, and they lived in Center, Philadelphia. And that woman said to me, and I was 17, he fools around. So I always feel, well, maybe she did, I don't know.
Who fools around? Her
The
husband was.
husband.
But she also fooled around. I
Who?
remember that woman.
Oh, yeah.
That woman was fooling
Do
around
you
down in
remember her
Florida.
name?
No, but I remember she had, I think, dark
Dark
hair,
hair,
with
yeah.
maybe bangs even.
Yeah.
And
They
so.
lived in a very, very beautiful house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she became friendly with mother, and so we were down in Florida, and we were supposed to go down for a week or so. We went down by train, Eddie, me, and Mom. And we went down without reservations, and we got off the train, and we walked with our suitcases up
Collins Avenue.
Collins Avenue. Not Collins, what's the one on the,
I thought it was
on the
Collins.
water? What's the one on the water?
Ocean Park Ride?
Ocean Drive.
Yeah.
Ocean Drive, and there were rooming houses there, right where we stayed that last time we went to Florida. And there were these houses and people let out rooms, and mother took a room there, and she met a man by the name of Joe
Joe.
from Buffalo. He was walleye. He was walleye.
Grandma knows how to pick them.
But he had a yellow
He had a
Cadillac
Convertible, I remember.
And he took us out to look at the orange groves. And so when we were coming back, and what happened, who knows what happened there, but when we were coming back, so mother would say, okay, Linda, you put Eddie to sleep, because Eddie didn't want to go to sleep or whatever. And I would put him to sleep, and you know, he had to lie down with Eddie, even as an older
Well, when
boy.
did that woman come to work for her?
Oh,
There was a woman who came to work
She
for
gotta
her.
tell Jody to come here,
Uh,
she's probably
oh.
waiting.
Harriet, you could
I think it's a good idea.
well, I didn't hear what you said.
call her.
Oh, Jody?
Mother hired a woman to take care of Eddie when I was 13.
Oh, but that was an older woman.
Yeah,
That
I'm
was
saying.
missing somebody.
When did she, must have been, I was 13. If I was 13.
But that was their first trip there. That Eddie was 2 years old.
Yeah.
He was like, this was now
Oh,
4.
later on.
This is whatever, her name was an older woman. That was the year that did it.
Mrs. And the reason why I remember I was 13 is because she was the first person to congratulate me on my bar mitzvah.
Oh. Before you'd been with us or after?
Yeah, before. I was on my way to 13. I must be 12.
Well,
Mrs.
so when we got off the, so mother didn't want to come back.
Yeah, I
I
know.
kept telling mother, Dad,
But we lived on Shore Parkway at that time.
and came back and said, and called and said, why aren't you coming back? And she said, I can't get a ticket. And he'd call her again and say, why aren't you coming back? I can't get a ticket. So finally,
He
bought
sent her a ticket, I know.
He sent her a ticket.
I remember that.
So when we were getting off the train or plane, I don't remember how we got back, mother said, don't say anything about Uncle Joe. And the very first thing I did when I got off the
Hey, we met this guy, Uncle Joe.
You know why your mother was a pain in the ass?
no.
Yes,
Because-
yes.
No, no.
Yes, yes, yes.
No, no. No, no. I was on my father's side. I was always on my father's side.
All right, so you, what were you like as a kid?
Scared all the time. What was I like? You know what? In those days, John, I got up in the morning, I brushed my teeth, I went to school.
What were you like?
I don't know what I was like. I was.
Were you academic? Were you
I
athletic? Were you
I was the
charming?
fifth smartest kid in my class.
What school?
PS 200 and PS 128.
But yeah.
Why do I remember? Because the teacher picked out 5 smart kids, and I was one of them. And I have to assume I was the fifth.
Who are the other ones? Who are the other ones? Stanley? No. You didn't meet Stanley till high school, right?
No. No, I met Stanley in public school.
You did?
He went to 101, but I went to 200. But he would come to Bay 29th Street and ask us if he could play punch ball with us. Sandra Weiss was one, but I honestly don't remember. I really don't. Why would I remember such a thing?
Some people, you know.
Maybe it's in the back of my head someplace, but it's not coming out.
All right, so what did you like to
I
do?
went to school. I was very, very good in all my classes except Spanish. I could not pass Spanish. And when I graduated from high school, I got over 90 in everything, including all the regions, and flunked the Spanish region. But they made it so I passed, so I would not have a failure on my record. And then I went away to college and was the happiest day of my
What
life.
college?
It's now called Philadelphia University.
What'd you study?
I studied engineering. And it was wonderful because I got away from you-know-who, and it was terrific.
Who's you know who?
My father! It was terrific. Absolutely. I tell my children all the time, when their children go off to college, this is the best thing you could do for this child because they're getting away from you, especially Peter.
Come back.
I'm going to show you a picture of Peter's daughter. I couldn't believe it was
Yeah,
his daughter.
beautiful, it's beautiful.
At any rate, because you learn to be on your own. And I would have gone to school in, I can't tell you where. My father had a friend in the building by the name of Joe Tomarkin. Joe Tomarkin was a window dresser and he made a very, very good living. He had a son, Stanley. Stanley tried to get into this school and he could not.
Oh, really?
So my father was determined that I would get into
no
the school,
kidding.
absolutely. And he said, you go to Brooklyn College or you go to this school.
Yeah.
I would have gone to school in Vietnam. Forget about Brooklyn
If you
College.
knew the name.
I did register at Brooklyn College, but I went to this school, and the reason why I took an engineering degree was because I didn't have to learn foreign language.
So you studied to be what kind of engineer?
Well, it was a general engineering course. Towards the end, we specialized in textiles.
The making of it, the manufacturing?
The whole thing, everything. We had to weave it, we had to sew it, we had to create it, we had to do
So did you think you were sort of following your father's footsteps because he was in the hat trim business?
No, he wanted me to go into that business, and I told him I'd rather lose my legs. So I did not go into that business. I didn't go into that
It was
business.
very popular in those days.
It sure
What
was, everyone
six-
wore a hat.
Textiles, sure. Oh, yeah.
But now it's nothing.
Wow.
Did you get Jody?
I got Yodelah.
Good.
She said she'll be here in an hour.
Okay.
I said she's missing out
Everyone-
little stories.
Everyone wore a hat.
Yeah,
And he had a good business, and we had a good life.
yeah, we did.
I mean, the lights always went on, there was always food on the table, and he was a very good provider. And even when he lost that business, he was a good provider. And when he died, he left a couple of $100,000. Now, where that all came from, I cannot tell you, but as you know, because you got your share.
So he was in the hat trim business, but I thought after Kennedy's inauguration, people didn't wear hats so much.
After Kennedy's inauguration, he lost his business.
So then what did he do?
He sold it, and he worked for the people he sold it to.
Oh, so he stayed in that business, but he had
He
sold
stayed
it.
in that business till he was 78. When he was 78, he came to me and he said to me, they're making me retire. And I said to him, well, how long did you think you were going to work? Meanwhile, I'm 80. And I'm still looking to work. He was 78. What they would do is they would give him a ticket, fly him up from Florida, meet him at the airport with a limousine, take him to Brooklyn. He'd stay, that's why they sold the house. He stayed in the apartment, and in the morning they'd pick him up, and he'd go to work, and he'd do whatever he did. And then he would fly back to Florida.
So one week, yeah.
He would stay a week, a month, I think.
Why do you think you had so much conflict with him? Why do you think?
I think
we
he
talk
was
about it.
intensely jealous of me because Mother loved me so much, and he didn't like it. I think that's
Yeah,
what it is.
Yeah.
I think really that's what it was.
Yeah.
You know, yesterday the children came, some of them, and Harriet, who was feeling terrible, and she had the MRI, and was really having a rough time with her back, was a brand new person. She was dancing around the apartment.
Yeah.
So, and I said to Harriet, you know, when I would call Florida, Dad would say, your mother is not feeling well, but she'll talk to you because you make her feel better. And he just didn't like it.
Yeah.
And I also, he didn't like for me to kiss, he didn't like any men to kiss him or to be affectionate with him. And I tried, but it didn't work. I tried when I was older, forget about it, young, and it just didn't work. And he also, I think, adored Mike. I think
Well, what about Linda?
no, Linda he adored. There was no question about that. But I think that he took out, his father loved Mike, and I think he loved Mike. And
Why?
and I don't know. I think because, first of all, they named Mike after my grandfather's father. And in those days, that was important. And I was named after Grandpa Epstein's father, which the Firkins didn't like, but my mother insisted upon it. And it was just a whole bunch of conflict, John. I really do think that the bottom line was that she really liked me, and I knew it. And I never questioned it, ever. And he didn't like it. He was jealous.
When did they move down to Florida? Or when did they start going to Florida?
My mother always went to Florida. My mother had a friend by the name of Bessie. And Bessie, after she sold the kosher butcher shop in Great Neck, they moved down to Florida. And my mother was, wanted to be in Florida. But you also have to remember that in those days, that was the Mecca. If you were a Jewish person and you had a couple of bucks, you went to Florida.
Were your mother and father religious? Did you grow up
No.
religious?
No, I was bar mitzvahed, and I had to go to Hebrew school, but I wouldn't say they were religious.
Where did you work after you graduated from college?
I worked for United Merchants Manufacturers.
For how long?
9 months.
What's your work career?
Then I went to work for a textile broker, and I worked there for 4 years. And then I went from there to, where did I go after Heinemann and Company? Oh, Dear's and Jefferson,
When you go to Cornwall Marks,
when I first got out of
that was
college.
the first one, Cornwall Marks.
Dad got me that job. He had a friend who was a department head there, and he got me that job. Then I went to work at Island Jefferson, and that was my career. After Island Jefferson, I became an officer. Island Jefferson was owned by Dan River. I became an officer of Dan River. I stayed there for 16 or 17 years, and I decided that my career had reached an end at Dan River. So I left Dan River and I went back to United Merchants and stayed there just for a little while. Then I became the president of Stacy Fabrics and stayed there until I had a fight with the owner, and I realized I had to leave. And after staying home for the summer, I stayed home for a couple of months, I went to work for Stacy. No, not Stacy. I went to work for John Shulman's father. And I worked there for 30 years.
You did?
Oh, yeah.
So what do
I'm
you,
still working.
what are the
Since you
highlights
check
of your
all the time.
career? What are you most proud of in your career?
Most proud of. Well, I started a factory for Stacy in New Jersey, and that was great until I realized it was never going to work because of the equipment they bought. And so at a meeting with his mother-in-law, who was the majority shareholder, she asked me what I would do with $3 million. Would I buy this equipment? And I said no. And her son-in-law, who was my boss, did not take that lightly. That's why I left that company. But that was a very good time. And Harriet and I had a ball when I was at Isle Jefferson. I mean, we traveled, we were entertained. People would call us up like on a Saturday morning and say, we're flying down to Bermuda, do you want to come? And her parents were very good. They would watch the children for us. So we went to Bermuda a couple of times. It was just very nice.
How did you meet Harriet?
Tell
We
the
lived-
truth, tell the truth.
We lived on the same block.
2 blocks away, 3 blocks away.
No, it wasn't 3 blocks.
2, at least.
2.
Uncle Sidney, we all piled into a car because it was a heat wave, and we went to Coney Island, right?
But that's not how we met. We met on the bus going to school.
Oh, yeah.
We started to date because my aunt was away for the summer. She would go to South Fallsburg. And Uncle Sidney came over to say hello and to have dinner with us, whatever it was. And he said, would you like to go to the beach? I'll drop you off. So Harriet and Nikki Resnick and Stanley Zuckerman and I went to the beach. And I was with Nikki Resnick, but I wound up with Harriet. And 59 years later, here we are.
What was that courtship like? Where'd you take her?
It was hot and heavy.
Do you remember your first date?
Do I remember? My father never let me use the car. And one day I said to him, please, I'm going out with this girl, let me use the car. So he let me use the car. And my mazel, the car overheated in front of Harriet's house. And
Her father said, that guy, that's not the guy.
And the next morning, my father and I had to push the car home. And he was not happy. He was not a happy camper. And then when I was a senior in college, I asked her if, we should get married. So we got married.
Senior in college.
Yes.
No, wait.
No. When I was a senior in college, I asked her. But then I finished college, I went into the Army, and we were married on a furlough from the Army.
Did you serve in the Army for?
You didn't date very long. You only dated a year.
I don't even think
Tell
it
me
was
about this
a-
Army business.
Where
Where
about?
did you serve in the active military?
Yes.
Where?
I served first. Why do we need to go? I served first
I need it.
at Fort Carson. That's where I took basic training.
I thought,
And then I went from Fort
You're from
Carson
New York, we only got,
to Oklahoma. And the reason why I went to Oklahoma is because I was a very bright math student. And they were setting up an artillery school there. And they needed math qualified people to set up the coordinates and everything. And that's what I did. And then I was on my way to Korea, and Harriet got very friendly with a colonel. Harriet was designing.
Uncle Joe?
No. What was his name? Colonel something. But she was designing munitions in Oklahoma. She had a good job.
And Harriet was?
She had a
Designing
GS-5.
munitions?
Yeah. She had a GS-5.
You were in the
rating.
military. You were in the military?
No, but we needed the money.
Oh, you went with him to Oklahoma.
Right.
well,
So
they got
in
married.
Oklahoma-
They got married first.
You're living on the base in Oklahoma.
No, she had an apartment. I was confined to the barracks.
And then Harriet got a job designing munitions?
Yeah.
What is that? Designing bullets?
No, it was like, oh, here's this machine, now redraw it, and, had to do it over and over until it was right.
You were,
And machine parts.
okay.
And then they were shipping me to Korea. And in Colorado, there was a layover in Colorado. And in Colorado, this guy, Sousa, his name was, he led the band on Fort Carson. And they needed a second clarinetist. And my MOS said I played the clarinet. So he interviewed me and he gave me a test and they changed my records
To being,
to being the second clarinetist in the 179th Army Band. And then Harriet and I got this phenomenal apartment. We actually got the downstairs of an old mansion.
in Oklahoma still?
No, in Colorado. And we loved Colorado Springs.
You were on your way to Korea, really just to serve as an infantryman?
Yeah, everybody in my whole class went to Korea.
So the stopover was in Colorado.
Right.
Just by chance you learned. How long was the stopover?
Yeah, but
That fits.
what about Colonel
They pull you
Miller?
off the...
Gilbert! Good girl. Colonel Gilbert was Harriet's friend. And he interfaced with Sousa, who was the band leader, in some way. And that's how Sousa heard of me.
So instead of going to Korea and grabbing a gun and serving on the front lines, you played your clarinet.
Right.
For how long?
That's lucky.
For 2 years.
That's really lucky.
Where did you play?
Well, our main job was, Colorado, where we were, is very mountainy. Do you know Colorado? Okay. It's filled with mountains. And there was a mule unit on the base, and they used to go up the mountain with the mules, camp out, and then come back down off the mountain. Our job was to play them down off the mountain.
Real mules?
I swear to God. And we had to march behind the mules, and you couldn't look down to see where you were stepping. So you stepped the mule shit all the way into Colorado Springs. And I would come home and we'd have to wash the laces and the shoes. And in Colorado Springs, there is a hotel, the Broadmoor Hotel. And Mrs. Spencer Penrose, whose husband discovered a gold mine in the gold rush, she owned the hotel. And she didn't want Jews or service people in that hotel. And many years later, I said to Harriet then, one day, we'll come back here and stay in this hotel.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, she died just before we got there because I wanted to spit at her.
Yeah.
So I spit at her picture, which was in the lobby. And I said to her, to the picture, we're Jews, we're Jews! And we stayed at that hotel. You think we just arrived? I mean, you know,
Did you
I once
feel-
read an article and the guy, somebody said to the guy, oh, you have a heart condition. He said, listen, I'm an old man. I wasn't born with a heart condition. That's what I'm telling you. We weren't just here.
Did you thank your lucky stars that you played the clarinet?
Oh, you know I did.
Did you?
Oh,
Were
absolutely.
you scared and petrified to go to war?
To go to Korea?
Yeah.
You know what shitting in your pants is? There you go.
So why didn't you apply yourself and say, wait, isn't there some way, can I go to Canada, can I?
Did you ever go in the Army?
No.
No. You never questioned anything in the Army. They threw you in the brig. This was wartime, John. I am a war veteran with all the benefits of being in the war. So you didn't question what they were doing.
Such as muddy boots.
Such as money boots, and I have an insurance policy. But you didn't question these people. I mean, they had life and death over you. And if they wanted you dead, you were dead. There was just no question about it. And the
All right,
thing
so-
was that I graduated top in that class in Oklahoma, and the deal was that you could then pick any tour that you wanted to, depending upon your rating in that class. So I said we wanted to go to Paris. So I wound up in Colorado. But you had no control. There was no such thing as telling them where you wanted to be.
You went to Colorado on a plane with a instruction on a train with a mission to actually go to Korea.
Yeah, that was my instruction.
Where were you when you were? This was not your initiative, but it was Harriet's initiative to tell someone that you played the clarinet.
Colonel Gilbert.
Because I used to work for special service.
Were you looking for a way to get him out of going
Yes.
to Korea?
Yeah,
Yes.
she wanted me home.
So you did what?
I started to cry in front of the colonel. I said, I'm all alone, I don't know what I'm gonna do, you know. And he liked me because I was an artist or whatever. So he said, you know, let's see what I can do. So we used to go in his car, it wasn't him, it was his underling.
No, it was Sergeant Elaine and Bert Gottlieb. And Gottlieb, see, I was confined to the barracks. I was not allowed to leave. So Gottlieb would come and he would tell me when I should be going to the latrine, which was down the block. So I would be going to the latrine. He would put me in the trunk of his car, take me into Lawton, Oklahoma. I would see Harriet for a little while, and then he'd bring me back. And the guys in the barracks couldn't figure out, what the hell do you do in the latrine? But that's the way we were. That's just the way we were. Where did Mel Stein go? I think Mel Stein went to,
He stayed in New Jersey, didn't he?
no.
So do you credit Harriet
Mike
completely with getting you out of going
I
to Korea?
credited Harriet completely for my being here. Forget about Korea.
Harriet, do you consider it one of your great successes?
Her success was the day she married me. That was her success.
As yours.
All right, so where did you go when you when you left the army?
Well, what happened was I was going to stay in Colorado, and my friend Bill Weslow and I were going to go into business together.
Doing what?
We were going to open up a store of some kind, John, a dry goods store. But Harriet became pregnant with Jody, and we didn't want Jody born in Colorado Springs.
Why?
Because it's an anti-Semitic town. It was in those days. So we wanted her born in New York. So we came back to New York in the middle of the summer with the heater on in the car because I couldn't shut it off. And
Unless you drove in the wrong direction for 200 miles or so.
what?
Didn't you drive in the wrong direction?
We stopped in St. Louis because Harriet was staining.
Yeah.
And the girl, Elaine Gottlieb's doctor, told us to stay there. So we stayed there until we couldn't stand it anymore. Out of the Army, they were an obnoxious couple. They were really very good to us when we were in the Army. And we left in the middle of the night. And Harriet was directing me, and she directed me right back to...
I really messed up.
But we drove home, and Jody was born, and your mother came to stay with us. And time just went, you know. Bill Weslow's father died, and he had to take over the car agency in Palo Alto.
What did you do for work?
I went to work for United Merchants.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's not
And
What was
we got
Jody
an
like as a
apartment.
kid?
What?
I know.
What was Jody like as a child?
She was spectacular. She was just spectacular. Ask your mother. She was a very good baby. What are you talking about?
She was bad.
She was crying, a lot of crying baby.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well,
What do you expect?
She was just born. How about that thing over here?
Expect to be playing the Brandenburg concerto?
She was, listen, we could take
She was
her.
beautiful.
We had an apartment with a lawn in the front of it, and we could take this child and put her near a tub of water, and she would sit there all day long and play with the water. She was super until the day Lori was born. On that day, she turned rotten.
What was Lori and Jody like together?
Terrible! You cannot believe what they were like together. It was awful. They would fight and scream and yell. And finally, I told them to make believe they didn't know each other. I said, just make believe you don't know each other and don't talk to each other. They had to share a bedroom, and Jody took paint or chalk and drew a line down the center of the bedroom and told Lori she'd die if she stepped over. And Lori believed she'd die.
What was Lori like as a kid?
Lori was adorable. Lori was always
Easy.
adorable.
Yeah.
What would happen is Jody was very, very pretty. And people would stop us and make a fuss over Jody, and Lori would stand there. But then they became, when Jody went to BU, Lori went to visit her. And we were scared. We figured Boston would go up in smoke. But then they became very good friends. And they are very, very close today.
Mm-hmm.
So then the twins came.
Then we had the twins, yes.
What was that like?
It was like, you know, all hell broke loose. But you
No,
had...
actually, we had an equal share. One took one twin and
Yeah.
one took the other.
So what was the thought process if you had two kids and they were screaming, yelling at each other? You felt, well,
They
let's add
never
some more
yelled.
kids to this.
Oh, why don't we have more?
Yeah.
I guess because we liked sex. So that's just the way it happened.
Next year,
That's just the way it happened. But Jody and Lori Jody was 7 and Lori was 5. And we thought we'd have one more child.
how'd you pick the name, the 4 children's names?
Jody is named after my mother's mother. Lori is named after the same person your mother's named after.
Who was your mother's mother?
Right.
My mother's mother. Peter is named after Aaron Epstein. Peter's middle name is Adam.
Yeah, but who was after
And Jamie-
my mother's brother? Wasn't that Peter?
Your mother said we were going to name him Pietro, and I said there is no way. His name is Aaron, and in Jewish, his Hebrew, his name is Aaron.
So how important was Judaism to you in your whole life?
I identify myself strongly as a person of the Jewish faith. I am not a religious person. And it was
Is
important to
is
me.
To
Listen,
have your kids be Jewish?
I was just going to tell you, Jamie's son came home from school and said he's decided he wants to be Jewish, and he wants her to get him, which the girls have done also. And he wants her to get a Jew, and Jamie went, yes, yes.
He came back from, he go to Albany, so he must have.
No, Binghamton.
Oh, Binghamton, yeah.
And he's joined the same fraternity that Brian formed. And he identifies very strongly with the Jewish kids at school.
Interesting.
So what did you think of?
The
So
girls-
what
both
was
girls
Peter
too?
and
What?
Peter and
Both girls too.
Yeah,
were Peter and Jamie like as kids?
terrible.
They were terrible.
Peter made her life miserable. And until she got old enough that I could convince her to fight back, he just, Peter is a very, as you know, outgoing person. Jamie was not. And he really made her life very difficult.
That's too bad.
What?
Isn't it hot?
I'm always hot, but you're always cold, so you want me to show one off? But as Harriet said, Jody took care of Peter and Lori took care of Jimmy. That's right, Ada, except for the one in the room Lynn's sleeping. That one is not as good.
So you haven't lived in this apartment for long, have you?
Is that a question?
Yeah.
No, why? And then we moved to Great Neck.
All right. So amongst the children-in-law, John Popper came first, right?
John Papa came first.
I remember that wedding. First time I ever saw a French kiss.
French kiss.
That was their wedding. He said, "You may kiss the bride," and John slipped her the tongue right there. I said, I said, "That's quite public." Where was that wedding?
That wedding was at the top of the St. Moritz Hotel.
Where?
Manhattan.
Central Park South.
St. Moritz was a real class hotel. It's no longer there. I mean, it's there, but it's not a cologne. Yeah, it is, like everything else in the city.
And then the second to get married was Lori?
Yes.
Next year.
Jeff, right?
Lori got engaged at Jody's wedding.
His name was Jeff?
Jeff Hyams.
And that time, he hated me the worst.
Why?
He came with Lori and said, "I want to talk to you." So I thought, oh, he's going to ask to borrow money, and that's why they're here. So then he said, I'll tell you the truth, we're going to separate. And I said, since Michael was born, this is the best news.
You said this to him?
I said it to him.
Right.
This is the best news. He absolutely hated me.
And did you hate him too?
What?
Did you not like him too?
She did
Yeah,
not
I-
like him. And she was not, one of his fans.
Peter was the one who spilled it. Peter had the most
He
insight.
didn't like Peter either.
But Peter saw what their household was like because he was the kid brother
Yeah.
who went over to see.
What was their household like?
They weren't getting
He
along.
was a kid and he went over to visit his sister and her husband.
They weren't getting along. End the case.
I think I remember that wedding too. There was an outdoor reception, right?
No, that was
No,
Jamie's.
that was
first
Jamie.
wedding.
On some sort
Married in a country
On some sort of hill, it was like this sloping hill with an outdoor bar.
That was Jamie.
So Jamie-
Jamie's, right?
I remember Lori walked right past me, didn't say hi.
Really?
Yeah, I think, and then Mom, you said that you thought that maybe Lori didn't recognize me.
Oh, she wouldn't
I guess
do
it's
that.
possible.
That's not like Lori, so maybe she didn't recognize you. Linda, you taught us how to put that in the microwave to save our lives.
The coffee?
Yeah.
All right, so then Lori ended up, group.
Yes. Very happily. They have two unbelievable boys.
Yeah, those boys are wonderful.
You know, he's playing baseball. He's playing baseball for UMass.
Well, Julie was supposed to go visit him yesterday, but their signals got crossed. She didn't go.
So then, then Peter and Elise, what was that wedding like? Well, I remember that was Tarrytown.
Yes, they had a Super Bowl.
I remember that. Your mother was there.
Was it?
Yes.
I remember your son's bar mitzvah. Your grandma was wearing a fur coat.
So where? Jamie and Peter's bar mitzvah?
Yeah. That's all I remember.
On Park Avenue?
10 Park Avenue. And that was it. And we, moved to Great Neck and Kings Point. And
How long did you live in Kings Point?
And
Little? No.
then we bought this apartment in Manhattan. And then we sold it and moved here.
How long were you in Manhattan?
30 years.
Oh my God.
And if you think it's easy to break up, wait, you'll find out.
Now I'm gonna die in my house.
Did you do
What
Did you
did
do
she
the?
say?
She's gonna die in their house.
I'm
So
going to, but.
tell me the story about Woody Allen.
Red.
You mean, and the film? I got a call in the office one day and someone said, I represent Woody Allen and we are looking for a place for him to film his next film. And I said to him, thank you for calling, we have no interest whatsoever.
Why? Why not? That's exciting.
Harriet was at New Hampshire College teaching art, and Peter was in Europe. Peter then came back from Europe, and again someone rang the bell and said, I represent Woody Allen, and we would like to see your apartment. And he could have said, I am a homosexual murderer. Peter would let him in because he used the magic word, Woody Allen. So they came in and they said they were taking pictures of 5 apartments in the city. And Woody, we call him Woody, Woody would select one. And then Harriet came home from New Hampshire College and they called and said, Woody Allen selected our apartment. End the case. So he came and he filmed.
Was he nice?
I didn't
No.
meet him.
It was not nice.
He really? What do you remember story-wise?
He was directing the actresses on the set, and he never once had eye contact with them, with me, with anybody. He was sort of like this, and
Did you make it a condition that you get one of your pictures?
Yes, that was a deal.
yes. I
Did
said
they pay you as well?
Yes, they paid us, but the deal was that the picture would open in the scene.
Yeah, I've seen that a million times now.
That was the deal.
That was the deal. But it was an experience. I would have done it a million times. It was just very exciting.
How did
But
you like?
and what happened was, it was the cinematographer took the cardboards that were on the floor, preserving the floor, and he put it up, and the day changed, the atmosphere changed outside. So he couldn't use set 1, he couldn't use, they didn't match. So he said, okay, we're gonna do something else, and he picks up a coffee urn, one of these huge things, and the whole thing flew all over the living room. All the actresses ran out thinking they were responsible. The deviled eggs, which was part of that scene, were flying all over the place. I started yelling. Sam
Waterson.
went upstairs to my bed with...
This is Jody. Let me ask one question. Are we going to go to Costco or we're not going?
Well, she's coming here first.
Yeah, but I'm going to ask her to stop at Costco.
So I told her just to come here.
No, I know.
Yeah,
Hello?
Yeah.
So
Where are you, Mama?
I told
Okay.
I
Could you do
stopped
me a
everybody.
favor and stop
no
by
one
Costco, that
directing
liquor
anything.
store, and
So
get
I
me a
said,
bottle of
look,
Svedka,
Everybody just stop. This is my
the
home.
vodka that I drink.
This is,
Svedka, it's right by the door,
stop.
and it's
So,
$19.
they stopped and
SVED,
walked out. He
okay?
comes home and
Thanks,
says,
honey.
I
That's
told
it,
you
thanks.
not to do this. I told you
Yes.
not to do this. But
Okay.
they took everyone who was involved, you know, our family, whoever was there, and I had everybody I knew was standing on the
What's
side
wrong?
watching this. And they took us out to dinner.
That's nice.
It was an experience, it really was.
That's fabulous.
All right, whenever you get
The
here.
What did you
next
say about
day-
Sandy Waterston?
What?
I don't know what you said about Sandy
No.
Waterston.
No
He
thanks.
was, he was part of it.
Yeah.
And
But
You said
I-
you took somebody
they ran
upstairs?
upstairs to hide
Oh.
on our bed. Like they didn't want anyone to know they were up there. So then they all left and we were all upset. But the next day they came in that we would never in a million years ever have known that there was a spot on the wall.
Yeah,
They were fabulous.
We know a story about a couple who let them use their house at Great Neck. And they ruined part of the carpeting on the steps, replaced the whole house with carpeting. Because it's so much less expensive than
Yeah.
building a set. And that's why he filmed in our place, because he liked the furnishings and he knew he didn't have to replace anything.
Yeah.
But what a mess. God, I walked in livid. And I was going to really throw a fit.
Yeah.
And when I saw what was going on, I said, you know, this is not the time. This is not the time for fits. And they, as Harriet said, they really did a job cleaning up.
All right, so what was my mom like when she was younger?
She's a brat.
She was adorable.
Nah!
She was.
Adorable. She
Well,
was.
what did she like to do? What did she not like? You know, stories.
You know, I'm so much older than she is that I really didn't see
Pay
her a lot. I really didn't
Did
see
you
her
not pay a
lot.
lot of attention to
No,
her?
you don't pay a lot of attention to a younger sibling.
Were you defensive of her?
Yes, and I thought she was cute, and I tried to protect her when I could.
Yeah.
But she was in love with Sandy Koufax, and
Were you in love with her?
Sure, yeah.
Were you
First my
buddies with
father,
Sandy?
then
no,
Sandy.
Mike.
I know Mike was
I was
very
not.
close friends.
Mike was very friendly with Sandy. I think they still are in touch.
But he was a neighborhood kid.
Yeah, he lived right down the block. He used to come over all the time. His mother and father were divorced, or his father died, or whatever. it
Was he was a good sportsman?
Sandy? Not like Mike.
Mike was better.
Much better.
At baseball?
At baseball.
Well, he wasn't as powerful, he was more powerful.
Oh.
But he wasn't as accurate as Mike.
He was not as good as Mike. And when he went away to college, wherever he went, Cleveland or something, I don't remember, he then became much, much better. But Mike was the star.
Baseball player.
Yes, sir.
I just want to
Picture.
interject that Linda, as she was growing up, I was there, and she would always wear like these cute black dresses with a little white bow over here. She was like perfect. And I'd say, come in the bathroom, I'm going to put lipstick on you. And your mother threw a fit that I was going to put lipstick on you.
What else was she like?
She was
She was a nice person. She was cute. She went to school. She had an ugly friend, Sandra.
Careful, careful, nobody's gonna see this.
No, she.
He'll put it on YouTube.
Oh, jeez, I keep forgetting he's filming.
oh yeah, this is bad.
But he doesn't know Sandra.
Oh, the ugly one.
The ugly
Oh,
one.
yeah, sure.
And that was the story. But she and Eddie were good friends. Mike and I went away to school and never came back. Into the house, I mean.
So what did you think about Eddie, not Eddie, but Mike going off to Europe?
I thought it was very exciting. The only thing wrong with it is my father gave him my camera.
No. So who are you?
No, I was very upset.
So who are you? You were closest to your mother as opposed to your father.
John, there is no contest. Yes.
But then you were also closer to Mike than you were to Linda or Eddie.
Yes.
No, you weren't close to Mike. You
We
weren't
were
friends
friends.
with Mike, no.
Or were you not close? Did you fight with Mike?
We ignored each other.
You know, we did fight. As a matter of fact, one time my mother put us in a room and closed the door and gave us boxing gloves so we'd kill each other. But, no, we fought all the time. But as we got older, we didn't fight as we got older.
But you ignored, you didn't have the same friends.
No.
They completely didn't have any much to do with each other.
John, for the camera, my life began the day my father left me in Philadelphia. I made friends who are still my friends. I dated. I had a wonderful time. It was great. And that's it. End the case.
I think I'd like to, I don't know if I should say this, but your mother was upset that they spent all the money sending Mike to the school in Italy, and that she could have had more things. She didn't like that.
Yeah.
So wait, my mom was resentful.
Not my
that-
mom.
No.
My mom.
Our mother.
Oh,
Grandma.
so Grandma B was resentful that so much money was spent on Mike going to Europe?
Yeah.
My mother really was a child of very poor people who married up,
Yeah, I
who
don't think-
wanted the things that money could buy, had 4 children, more than she really wanted. She didn't want all those children. My father was the pivot, the elm. She was the flourish. She gave she really contributed a lot, but she was going to have one life, and with all this money going, and my father saw the long term. None of us weren't allowed to work when we were kids because we had to study, and he didn't want us to have a taste of money.
And she had a friend Rose, and
And she
she
had a friend
wanted what
Rose.
Rose
That's
had.
exactly right.
And Rose had a child,
That's
and
right.
her husband made a decent living
That-
until he died, of course.
Yeah.
And she wanted all those things.
That's right.
You can't blame her for that. I mean, she wasn't vicious, she didn't kill.
And she was also, in a way, it was an immaturity, right? She was almost one of the children. In a way, some of her demands were like being one of the children, rather than she did all the motherly things.
Yeah, but he treated her that way, Linda. He did not give her money, which is why she went to work in Martin's.
Yep.
Because that was control.
That's right.
You know, if she needed money, she had to go to him, and he could say yes or no.
That's right.
And then she went to work in Martin's, and then she became an independent person
Yeah,
who did her own thing.
yeah,
And she was lucky that she was young enough to enjoy it.
yeah.
But she used to come with you, and you had done this big shopping, and as you came down the steps, he would say, "It stays, it goes."
Oh,
It
yeah.
stay- Remember that?
Yeah. Oh, I forgot that. Yeah,
He
yeah.
was a very controlling influence,
Yeah,
wasn't he?
yeah. But he was also steady, and for me, and I think for everybody else, really gave a lot of confidence. In other words, we didn't live in a chaotic, there was certainly enough yelling and occasional hitting, right? There was hitting too. But it was not a generally chaotic household. There was a stability to the household that he was a very important part.
As long as you did what he wanted you to
Yeah,
do, everything was fine. If he came home and at the dinner table he said, "Did you practice for an hour?" and you said no,
Yeah.
then he made your life miserable.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but those are the kind of things that, that's why you ended up being able to play the clarinet in the band, because you have a talent that he created the environment for you
Yes,
to
but
do.
there are other ways of doing it.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
So it was your father who was the musical, he was the one who made you
He
play
did not
clarinet.
want us to shine shoes.
Yeah.
And he felt that if we could play an instrument, and I joined the union and I played in a band, gigs, as we say.
In the Catskills?
In the Catskills, yes. He wanted us to have a classy way of making money if we had to. And in his head, this music was part of it.
That's a great idea.
And it cost him a fortune of money. We were 3 children. Eddie never took lessons. We were 3 children, each taking lessons. Mike and I took lessons in 3 instruments. Linda took piano and flute. And he had to pay for all
And not
those.
only that, but he sat through the lessons. We had the first lessons began at 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday morning. Every Saturday morning, the 3 of us, and plus Ronnie for a period of time, went to Sammy Stein's studio, and we sat there till 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and my father sat through all those lessons. And he's the one who had the stick-to-itiveness, the determination, and paid for it, and the vision. You really got to hand it to him.
What were the
He
other?
also felt that if Dick was learning all these instruments, he could always get a job.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's right.
I remember him saying, "I don't want your shining shoes.
Yeah.
If you need to make money, you can make money with your
So,
own."
Mom, you were closer with your father than with your mother.
Oh, yeah. My
What was the
triangle.
dynamic?
Everybody has their triangle. Mine was I don't know what kind of triangle.
Why did you feel more close to your father than to your mother? What was it that you drew to your father?
You feel close to the person who loves you, and I think my father really loved me, whatever boy, man, daughter, child, or I took to him, and I never felt that my mother really loved me.
Which she did, because she told me she did.
I know she did, but she never showed it, and I think I was not the kind of girl she wanted. Right? I was more serious and more studious, and and I thought she was frivolous, all the Hollywood stuff and all the biographies and the personalities, and she really didn't know very much, and I didn't admire her, and she didn't admire me, and
So you were more studious. You obviously went to graduate school, and
Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah. But it happened much younger than that. It happened young. Because she was in love with him. You know, how many people can you love the best? So she had found her true love, and I was the third child, right? I was the third child.
did you resent Uncle Dick?
No, I always loved my brothers. No, what do you think I'm doing here? No, I always loved my brothers, but no, I didn't ever resent any of the boys. I just didn't like her very much.
Did you ever have a reconciliation with her toward the
Yeah, I
end?
mean, later years. I was affectionate.
Yeah, when she fell in the bathroom.
And when I, you know.
You mean Grandma? You mean Bee?
Yeah. Whose wedding was that? Peter's wedding, Barry's wedding. After that wedding, she came back to me, stayed with me.
It was someone's
And then
wedding.
she,
Must have
and
been
then she
Barry's.
fell in the
No,
bathroom.
Barry's was Barry went to the
It was in New Jersey.
hospital.
That was
Julie's
That was
wedding.
Julie's wedding. Barry
My
went to
mother
the
came back
hospital.
from somebody's wedding with me
Yeah.
and fell down the steps. Tim was in the kitchen studying for the CPA exam, and he heard Mother fall, and then came upstairs and woke me up, and said, "I think your mother fell," and that.
I think there's somebody laying in your bathroom.
And ended up staying with me for about 3 or 4 months.
I remember her staying there.
Yeah. She
I
had
thought
an
it was
infected
fun.
leg. It was terrible.
So, Uncle Dick, what was your relationship with Eddie like?
No, that's not true. I thought he was adorable, and I loved him when he was a little boy. He was the cutest little thing that ever was. He looks a lot like Lisa's little boy, and he rode a bicycle, and he was just the cutest thing that ever was.
You were
What
much-
happened? I don't know. Ronnie would always say to me, "What happened to him?" Ronnie, I don't know. But whatever it is, he has a good life. He's got a book published. He's got 2 lovely children. He's got nice grandchildren.
So, he married Janice.
Yes.
I remember
So
that
Barry-
house, Old Bridge.
She was a New York State scholar, Janice.
She was what?
Remember the New York State
Yeah.
scholarships? Janice got a New York State scholarship.
Which Janice?
The first Janice, Eddie's wife. She was really a smart.
Yeah, she's smart.
Yeah. But, got married too young. He was 20. He was busy living up to his older brothers.
Well, I think he also once told me he was afraid to go into the army, and that was a way of staying out of the army.
Yeah,
And there are a lot of boys who did exactly that.
yeah. Then the army said, okay, if you're married, you can still go in the army if you have a child.
They had a child.
Yeah. And then, well, you can be married and have a child, but you can still go in the army, so they had a second child.
Is that
That
why?
was older in the Vietnam War.
He didn't want to go.
I don't blame
I don't blame him.
No.
You didn't want to go.
Nobody wanted to go.
Uncle Mike was also he was in the Air Force, right?
Was he in the Air
Uncle Mike was
Force?
in the Air Force.
But he was an officer.
And doctor, yeah.
I
served
don't
in
know
the
if he
Air
was
Force.
he was not in Vietnam.
No, he was in Kentucky.
No, but was
Nashville?
he in the Vietnam War or after? He was between
Vietnam War.
Korea and
Vietnam
Vietnam.
War, no, we were in Bangkok because of the Vietnam War. So
Yeah, I know, his mother tried to get there when Julie was born.
she did.
Oh, yeah.
I never heard that.
You didn't know?
No.
Oh, yeah. She went down to the State Department,
Yeah.
and they told her she couldn't go. It was a war zone. And she kept saying, well, my daughter just had all this kind of stuff, but they would not let her go.
I didn't know that. That's strange because Uncle Hans came to Bangkok.
She tried.
So B. Fields tried to visit you in Bangkok, but according to Uncle Dick now, was unable to.
I guess. I never knew.
It's a long way.
Yeah.
It wasn't a
After
long way. They
Wait,
said
didn't she go with Janice's mother?
to Israel.
Oh.
They said it was a war zone, and they wouldn't let her go. Now, maybe they didn't give a shit about Hans, so they let him go. But I know that's true.
John, I hope you're editing this thing.
Never.
So what did Jody say?
She's going to CVS because she's got to pick something up for Melissa. Then she's driving to Melissa's job to give it to Melissa. Then she'll come here.
So, this was the 11th hour. I hadn't really realized that Armistice Day today.
Mm-hmm.
The armistice was signed the 11th hour
The
of
11th day, yeah.
of the 11th month.
And you know what? Today's the 11th, tomorrow's the 12th, the next day's the 13th, and that's not going to happen again, I think, for 72,000 years. 11, 12, 13. Because Brian's birthday is tomorrow, which is the 12th.
Maybe 11, 12, 13.
Today is the 11th,
Yeah,
tomorrow's the 12th,
yeah.
the next day is the 13th. And that does not happen all the time.
What doesn't happen?
That there's 3 consecutive
A sequence.
days with the different numbers.
November 12th, 2013. 11, 12, 13.
November
November
11th,
11th.
November 12th, November 13th. I think it happens one more time this year, which may be the 14th, 15th, I don't remember. But at any rate, it's sort of like Hanukkah falling
Oh,
out.
11, 11, 11, 12, 11, 13.
Thank you, Linda. It's sort of like, she wasn't.
What about 12, 13? What's wrong with 12, 13, 12, 14?
No, it doesn't happen. Linda.
What did you think of Jamie's first husband?
I liked him then, I like him now.
Is he still in the jewelry business?
No, he's a broker. But his father, I think they sold the building, I don't know. I think Steve is still in, but they spend most of their time in Florida. We see them fairly often.
But he doesn't like his parents.
He doesn't get along with his parents. So his parents have sort of adopted Brian. And fortunately for them, and Jamie, Brian doesn't mind, not that he wanted to be adopted, but he doesn't mind being part of that family. So Jamie sees them.
So Jamie and Brian are close with Jamie's first husband's parents.
They all go to Florida together. Jamie and her children and Brian and Lynette, who's Ray's sister, and her husband and children all go to Florida together and stay with Steve and Camille, which must be a horrible scene.
Oh, well, it makes sense because those children are Jamie's children and the grandchildren of Ray's parents.
That's right.
Yeah.
So there is some connection, it's not.
But he has
Yeah, well, it's
had,
sort of the same in your family. I mean, you know, I see your father, I like to see him, I always liked him, I still like him, he likes me. And forget about her. What's the difference? And his wife is a lovely lady, and we have very nice times whenever we're together with them. And that's the way Brian is with Ray's mother.
How did you like living in New York City for, forever?
30 years.
I like it.
Harriet loved it.
Did you ever feel like you wanted to get out of the hustle and bustle?
No, I think he really couldn't stand it after a while.
Now, you started you were a community activist.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that?
Tell you about it?
What did you do for that community? What was your activism like? What was your goals in the community?
Well, I really liked the whole thing. And we were walking down Broadway one day, and Dick was on one side, a friend was on the other, and somebody in the middle jumped on top of me. So Dick said, "That's it, we're moving away, we're not gonna stay here anymore." And I said,
You were
"Give me-"
mugged?
Huh?
You were mugged?
No,
a
it's just
bum
like a
accosted
shock.
her.
So I said, "Give me a year." And I didn't know any residents, so I went from store to store and tried to act like you. I activated the neighborhood with fairs, and the neighborhood was a little naive at the time, and they followed, and we were very successful.
You did what? You went door to door?
I went to introduce myself to, say, a store and say, "Hello, I'm Harriet Fields. We try to get something going here. We don't
What were you
want-"
trying to get going?
I felt that it was important that residents and stores be on the same level.
I'd like to interrupt.
Yeah,
You also got a lot of politicians on your side, Harry, because they wanted the neighborhood to improve. So you had Miriam Freelander, and you had the one that became the judge, pretty dark-haired girl,
yeah.
whatever her name is, and Jonathan, what's the name of the director who did Silence of the Lambs?
Demi?
Jonathan Demme was part of it. I mean, there were a whole bunch of people who wanted the neighborhood to be improved. I wanted to get the hell out of there, but she wouldn't leave, so we stayed.
What was the name of the entity?
The first one was Concerned Citizens of Broadway.
I remember that.
And then after I tried to register and become a business improvement district, which is a helping hand to the neighborhood. Like each building would have to pay a certain amount to maintain the good work and whatever. So, but I found in this last time that people became more sophisticated. The police weren't adhering to the what is that? The people on the street. I forgot the name of it.
The sidewalk people.
Sidewalk people.
The vendors.
And I would have a meeting with the police, and they'd say, "Look, we used to have machine guns. Now nobody's. They're alive." In other words, so from their point of view, it was better. But
Well, it really is, Harry. I mean, you really did a job. And it's become a very residential area, which is why we could get so much money for our place, because people want to live there.
Who else? Now Wesley Snipes lived in that building?
Yeah.
Was he nice?
Lovely. Very nice.
Anyone else well known? That
our
And
kids
fortunately, we
would
didn't let
wait
him stay.
outside, hoping he would come out. You know, when they were younger.
But he
could
went
have
to
just
jail.
trick-or-treated upstairs.
Yeah. You went to jail?
Yeah, yeah.
What for what?
That's why they wouldn't let him buy in the building, because he was a tax evader.
Oh.
And when he wanted to buy in the building, they turned him down. I just heard a very interesting story. You want to shut the camera up? I heard a very interesting story. There's a huge sign here. It's the Pepsi-Cola sign. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I'll show it to you. Joan Crawford wanted to buy in the Waterhouse, which is a river house, very famous building across the river. And they wouldn't let her buy in there because even though she was married to the head of Pepsi-Cola, she was notorious. So in spite, she came over here and bought this piece of property and put up this enormous
Oh, wow.
Pepsi-Cola sign. So when they look out their windows, that's what they see. I thought that was sort of
And
interesting.
it's still there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's right here. It's right next door.
So Jamie.
But I just want to say this, that Linda was a really good influence on what I was doing. She always had the next mark.
Did you think it was bold that she went to Bangkok?
No, that's where she belonged. Your father was there. Where was she going to be?
You sound like Dad. And Jean, go home. You know, for your husband.
I mean, this is what it was.
So Jamie,
But
when
didn't she
Jamie
have a luxurious life there?
Yasker, Mom, what was it like?
Oh, yeah. It was very-
Yeah, it was great. She
Yeah.
had her hair done every day.
Twice a week or
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
every day.
Maid cleaning your house.
So when Jamie's son said that he wanted to identify more as Jewish,
Yeah.
as being Jewish, Jamie was happy about that?
Yes.
Now
The
what about,
girls did the same thing.
the girls have now done the same thing?
Yeah.
The girls have boyfriends,
Yeah.
but one is not Jewish. Are they both Jewish boys?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
they're adorable.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh, I hate this closet.
What are you doing?
What?
What are you doing?
I just want to pick up the tuna fish before it travels. They both have wonderful boyfriends. They're delightful people.
Yeah.
And one is Jewish and one is not. But the girls claim they're Jewish. And Brian told Brian he wanted to call him Dad. But Brian said, you have a father.
Yeah, but wasn't that part of the divorce? They're not allowed to call him Dad?
Did I let her call Ryan then?
No, they're not allowed, the children could not call Brian Dad.
Oh, that was in the divorce?
That was in the divorce decree.
It's interesting.
But he said, I want to call you Dad, and Brian said, no, I'm Brian, Ray is your dad,
Yeah.
and that's it. Anyway, Brian has done a wonderful thing for those children.
Yeah.
I remember their wedding, it was in your house, wasn't it?
Yes, theirs and Lori's second one.
And Brian wore like a jean shirt. Did anyone remember that?
No.
It was the most informal.
Wedding.
No, I don't remember that, but you can put it on the camera.
Already done.
I feel like Drew. Drew does this.
What? Is that-
I never do this. It was just that I didn't want the tuna fish to smash on the floor.
So Ann
If
Harriet,
you're sitting in Drew's house and you eat in the dining room, he takes out the vacuum cleaner. His mother is worse. His
So
mother's
Aunt Harriet, where did you grow up?
Brooklyn.
Where'd you go to school? What were your parents like?
They mostly did a battle royal on each other. And I think we moved about 32 times.
A battle royale, like they were beating each other up?
Emotionally.
Harry, where did you live before you moved to Shore Parkway?
The Lower East Side.
Oh, you moved there from the Bronx?
No, from Florida.
Oh, from
And we lived in
Florida. I forgot
Chicago.
Florida.
You
and
grew up
Chicago.
in Florida and Chicago?
Yeah.
What did your dad do for work?
He was, first he was involved with my uncle, part of a store.
They were in the dress business.
Yeah. But it didn't work out.
So they were fighting all the time?
Who, her mother and father?
Yeah. Did they like you?
They loved the boys their daughters married because they got rid of their daughters.
Oh, I don't think so.
You know?
They loved the boys. They did.
Do you have siblings? Of course you had siblings. Because, what were your siblings like and what have they done with their lives?
Well, one of them died, which is very sad for me. And the other one, I don't have contact with.
Where did you go to school?
Basically, in Brooklyn, and then Pratt Institute, then NYU, then that was it, right?
What'd you study at Pratt and what'd you study at NYU?
Art.
Why your parents move so much? You said 32 times. You lived, if you lived 32
I think in
times.
those days, if you passed an apartment house and it would say a free paint job, you could get a free paint job, so they would do it.
My mother-in-law said, if I came from Romania, what's the difference where I am? That's the way she felt about it. Of course, she came here from Romania. She left everything there.
When was that?
So it didn't make any difference.
When did your parents come?
They didn't come together.
So when did your mother come from Romania?
My father, I guess, put his money together or whatever he had and came on a boat, and somebody befriended him or whatever, and he came to the Lower East Side. Then he became a little prosperous and went back to, he left because he didn't want to be taken in the army because he was Jewish. And then when he went back, he met my mother, and then my mother was on the boat, and they convinced him, or he convinced that it was a mistake. So she decided she would come alone. So she came alone.
I don't, can you say that again?
You mean the relationship
I
was a
don't
mistake?
get that.
The coming back was a
My
mistake of the
father-in-law
relationship?
went to Romania with his brother, and his brother was looking for a wife. But my father-in-law was not looking for a wife.
Why did Harriet's father go to Romania to find a wife? He wasn't Romanian.
Listen to me.
Yes, he
They
was.
were from
Oh,
Romania.
so he was also.
And his brother wanted a Romanian wife. Dave, the guy's name was.
Why did they come originally from Romania to the U.S.?
Harriet told her they didn't want to go in the army.
Oh,
Czar's
they
army.
come from Romania to the U.S. Now they're in the U.S.
And they
now
go back
the brother
on their
wants
trip.
to go. No Romanian women, girls.
No, he wanted to go back to show that he had done well.
And
in
he had made
America.
money.
That I understand that. Okay, so they go back, and turns out your father met your mother.
Right.
And did your uncle meet someone too?
Yeah, he met the Gentile girl in the United States and married her.
All right, so then your father met your mother in Romania, and then he said, "Come with me back to the U.S."
Okay, so he went back.
No,
Ahead of
Dick,
time.
I'm missing it.
No,
No, go ahead. It's your story.
he went back, and his brother convinced him that they don't have enough to have the people that are living on the Lower East Side. So he sent her a letter, a telegram, saying he decided to call it off. So she decided she would come by herself.
Anyway,
Yeah, she.
because
And she had a brother who lived in Texas. Texas?
Did he live in Texas at that
Or
time? Or they
Chicago.
moved
your
to
father
Chicago?
went back to Romania, met your mother,
Yeah.
engaged with her. He comes back.
Yeah.
Your uncle decides to convince your father to break up the engagement with your mother.
Yes.
He sends him a telegram. Your mother says, forget that.
Screw you, I'm on the boat.
I'm coming anyway.
Yes.
I'm coming
That's just what
anyway.
she did.
Wow. See,
Wait,
that's good.
Why did Dave want your mother and father to break up? Did Dave want your mother and father to
No,
break up? Your father did.
their uncle Harry.
It was not their uncle, it was their brother.
The older brother.
The brother.
Didn't
Why,
like.
Mike, was he jealous because he didn't find a Romanian?
No.
No. He was married to Minnie already.
All right, so you...
Look, there were
so-
three
so-
brothers, Jonathan, there were three brothers.
Yeah.
Harry, who married Minnie, Dave, who eventually married an Italian girl, and my father-in-law,
Irving.
Irving meets Zella, and they decide to get together. But when she's on the boat, he writes to her a telegram.
Oh, she's on the boat. All right.
She's a strong lady, strong woman. And she made up her mind to come. Now her favorite brother,
You're glossing over the question as to when she got the telegram.
On the boat.
I don't want to know
On
when she
the-
got the telegram.
On the boat.
On the boat? A telegram on the boat.
So she gets a telegram that says, obviously I'm on the boat, I'm coming anyway, but I'm gonna stay.
But they were married by
They were married by proxy.
by proxy.
That's what they had. They were married.
The
by
captain on the boat married them by proxy.
But he had just broken up with her. I thought you just said.
And then he realized she was on the boat. What was he going to do with her?
So
And then her brother, who lived in Chicago or Texas, I don't know which one.
Chicago.
Chicago, came to the wedding, and he said, "Don't marry him. I'll give you everything. I'll do this. I'll do that." But she married him anyway.
Did you ever meet Harriet's parents? They were the most incongruous looking couple in the world, but she positively, till the day she died, adored him. She just adored
I
him.
thought you said they fought all the time.
They fought, but she adored him.
Yeah.
She just thought he was the most handsome, wonderful person.
How do you love someone that you fight with all the time?
Because in some people's lives, especially old Jewish people, fighting is part of the shtick. It's called let's make out.
I don't get it. I don't get it. Who wants to live with contentiousness?
But you're not talking now. There was no divorce. I mean, you didn't divorce.
You didn't have an option.
You had
You
no
had to stick with
option.
it, no matter what was going on.
And a woman had to be married. That's it. End of case.
Yeah. I remember that my mother held up in an apartment, locked the doors, and all the children stayed with her. And he was like beating on the door, open the door. It was like a drama, drama.
It's called foreplay. That's just what it is. And then they made up. They had 3 children. So at least we
They
know
made up twice.
3 times. We know they made up. And when he died, she forgot how to speak English. In the hospital where the two of them lived together, they called them Romeo and Juliet. They forgot that they would fight. They absolutely, it's like Aunt Lottie forgot she smoked. I mean, she just adored him. That was it. There was just no
That's
question.
nice.
There was just no question. And then he died. She couldn't speak Romanian to anyone because nobody understood her. But she wouldn't talk English.
Did you grow up speaking Romanian?
They made it a thing not to speak it in front of the children.
What about Hunter Mountain?
What about it?
What is the story about Hunter Mountain?
There's no story. My grandfather got sick, and he was told to leave the city. He couldn't work in the city. So they found this place.
What's your grandfather?
Dave. So they found my father's father. They found this place in the country. And my mother and father would go up there and rent a room, and then Jeannie and Nat would rent a room, and then their friends would rent rooms, and it turned it into a hotel. My grandmother did the cooking until she got too sick to cook, and they made a living this way.
So they owned land?
Yeah. And it was very nice, and we looked forward to being there, and we were free there, and we could play and go up to the reservoir and hear Aunt Jean scream for Marty, and it was just a very nice summer. We were out of the city, and my grandmother would send us berry picking, and we'd go berry picking so she could serve them for supper. It was just nice.
And then it was sold.
And then he lost it, yes.
But
And my father would not sue him for forgery.
Why
And
forgery, for what?
my dad actually owned it on paper.
Oh.
And he lost it in a
Card
poker
game?
game.
Oh.
And the reason that Dad and Jeanette stopped talking was because Jeanette wanted Dad to sue Grandpa. And Dad would not do it. So they lost it.
Oh, wow.
And now it's a world-famous, very classy ski resort.
Yeah.
But I remember it being a lot of fun.
you played music up in the Catskills?
Yeah.
Kind of like Dirty Dancing?
Kinda. I played at the New Brighton Hotel in Parksville, New York. You know, that
For
was
a summer?
Parksville.
Was it?
That was Parksville.
For like
And
a
Mike
summer?
worked down the road as a, what do you call it? As a,
Waiter, busboy?
he wasn't a waiter.
Bellboy?
Bellboy,
Bellhop?
I guess, yeah. Of course, it's different now. Kimberly's boyfriend works at a hotel as a bellhop. He made $16,000 last year in tips. I mean, I made $1,000 the whole summer.
Yeah.
So it's just different.
Yeah.
It's just the whole frame
You have
of
trouble selling a house and,
terrible.
why?
Because nobody wants to buy the house. It's just, it's too big
Yeah.
with too many rooms.
Yeah.
And they also have a daughter who converted to Judaism.
And what does that mean?
She had to go to the mikveh.
Oh, you're kidding.
No.
A mikvah? Oh.
She wanted to be Jewish, so her children were Jewish.
Did she marry a Jewish guy?
Mm-hmm. You see that tugboat?
Well, I remember these chairs.
You guys look like you went for a bus.
That's the number 41?
You know, there is a bus that goes to Astoria.
But
You don't
that-
be on buses.
Peter yesterday said to me, that's what he said to me. I said, Peter, you know, you can take the bus right here to the railroad, the station. He said, I don't do buses. Oh, I said, I'm so sorry to mention.
Stop moving. The picture you're doing something. The two of you.
John, when we get,
Only encourages us.
I know, no, I did read about that now.
See-
Did you read about this woman who had a baby, and the baby was the ugliest baby the husband ever saw, but grotesquely ugly? So he started a lawsuit to divorce her because he assumed, being that she was so beautiful and he is so beautiful, that she had an affair with an ugly man.
Oh, my God.
She then finally, and Peter called us something yesterday, she finally had to admit to him that before she met him, she had $100,000 worth of facial
Work on it.
plastic surgery done.
Oh, my
And that the
God.
baby looked like what she looked like before she had all this work.
That is unbelievable.
And I forget what Peter called it, but at any rate, that's, I was just reading about that.
That is really.
That's a good one.
That is.
That would be that.
Oh, the guy was gonna divorce her.
Well, she could have had a nose job, and she could have had a chin.
He's a
and
guy,
eyes and-
Harriet, that's having every, well, look at Joan Rivers, but every month or something, he has something else done, and when he's finished, he wants to look exactly
Justin Bieber.
like, thank you,
Justin
Justin Bieber. And that's what he's doing. I mean, people are crazy.
That is pretty crazy.
Is that camera on?
It is on.
Yes. Oh, it's the camera one. I thought it was the T, camera.
No. You know, I have a friend unnamed who is in her late 60s, and she had a gastric bypass surgery in order to lose weight. You know, it's a terrible
Oh,
operation.
yeah.
They cut all the fat on the inside of you, so the fat eventually
It's
drains.
like a
away.
good operation.
Well, if you're really very
Rex
obese.
Ryan lost 100 pounds on that thing.
Who?
The coach of the Jets.
Well, if you really can't lose weight any other way, and you really need to for health reason, you're so fat that you're going to die of a heart attack if you don't. But this woman is kind of a sickness, so now she's going for other kind of surgery that a woman who's in her late 60s, no matter what she's a lovely looking woman, is having more surgery. Some people get addicted to surgery.
Listen, Linda, Joan Rivers is 80, and she says that her grandson doesn't recognize her unless she has bandages on her face.
She is so funny.
She's great. There's a great documentary about Joan Rivers.
She's a funny lady.
And about how, like, on a day-to-day level now, she's still on the phone trying to get, gigs in, like, Duluth and whatnot, and she's
Yeah.
afraid people won't like her, and she's
Yeah.
afraid,
Remember her card catalog of jokes? She has written
Yeah.
most of the
Did you ever
jokes
see
there.
that program where she does that fashion review with
Yeah,
the other
the
people?
one they did.
No,
That is too bad, we can't tell you that story. But it's terrific.
But I spoke to him the other night, and he wanted to put her on the phone, but I don't know why, I just don't want to talk to her.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about the whole story is about 2 months ago, after the valve replacement, I was talking with, and I said to him, "What is going to find?" And he said, "Oh, don't be ridiculous." I said, "I'm telling you, he likes the drama, he likes to be the center of attraction, he always has,
Yeah.
and this would be the next thing for him to do." Sure enough, Mel calls me.
Oh my God. Yeah. And
What's
tells
the
you-
name?
Yeah.
Calls me and says, "As the world turns,"
It's
"You were right!" I said, "What?" He
Yeah.
said, "Who's just called me and he and she are together."
I love it. I love it.
Could you imagine?
Is Justina alive?
Yes.
So now she says the
They
same.
never divorced.
So is the Catholic, the teacher, too religious
Could
to
you
divorce.
imagine?
And Michelle, poor Michelle, Harriet, have you spoken to Michelle?
I did. I
Oh,
called
I did.
Michelle, and I said to Michelle, "Listen, we've been friends for a long time.
Aw.
Forget that name. And if there's anything we can do, let me know." She said, "I want you to know that it's been so bad with him that I am delighted. I can hardly wait for him to get out."
Yeah.
And I said, "So where is he?" And she said, "He's sleeping in the new apartment." He called me from Philadelphia. He was with her. So I said to Michelle, I didn't, of course, say this to Michelle, but whatever she would need. But she's going to Florida. It's her mother's 95th birthday, and she's going to stay there for a while.
Oh,
But she's not upset.
yeah, yeah. Well, 30, yeah.
I guess they did not get along
Yeah, after a while.
after a while.
Yeah.
And,
Well, 35 years is a good long marriage in any case.
well, we're married 59 years, and we're still here. But at any rate,
Yeah,
she said she's delighted. She's happy he left.
yeah.
And and she doesn't want him back to
But
pick
now
up
she
his
has to
stuff.
cook.
Now she'll have to cook.
Oh,
He's a
He was the
fabulous
cook, she was the cleaner.
her life will change now. How old is she? She's probably.
She's younger than you, or she's
Yeah.
only, I
Seven.
think she was 12 or 13 years younger than mine. Mine's 82.
So she's 70.
Yeah, and she looks good, and she said, "Oh, what? I'm young.
Yeah.
I'll go out on dates. I'll
Yeah.
do my thing.
Sure.
I'll be fine." I said, "Okay."
Unbelievable.
Incredible.
Yeah.
That, the one I was dating, I don't know if we ever told you,
Raz Burgess.
called me. We were living in Manhattan, so it's, within the last 30 years. And she told me that her husband died,
Yeah,
and that she felt she would renew old friendships.
yeah.
So I said, "Gee, that was very nice of you to call." And I said, "And we'd like to take you out for a drink." And she said, "I didn't say Harriet." Goodbye! That was all I said, "No, you got the wrong guy."
Yeah.
And I did go to, she was showing in Jacob Javits Center. She did a line of jean jackets. So I went to see her,
Yeah,
and we had a cup of coffee, and I left.
yeah.
But
The
Mel
one that
and
her father wanted
Barbara,
you,
right?
was Roger Burgess the one that her father wanted you to go into business with?
Yeah, the rubber, he was in the rubber hose
Yeah.
business. And she told me about her brothers, and her brother Stanley had 2 families. They didn't know each other. And her other brother, when I was going out with her, she had a brother who was not quite 30, and he was in love with a married Gentile woman. And the mother and father threw a fit, and he wouldn't marry her. She divorced her husband, he married her, and they divorced. So I called Mel right away, and Mel, as the world turns, this is it.
Look, Jody Popper in the house.
Careful, Jody, I swear to you, be careful.
So you got out of your pajamas. We heard all about the pajamas.
I was baking. Look, I was baking muffins this morning. in my pajamas.
How
Would you like to
domestic.
see them?
Oh, wow.
You understand John is working today, that's why he's not here. Yeah. I didn't want them to think anything happened.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow, Jody, what are they?
These are almond
No,
flour.
no, this goes in recycling.
These are almond,
What's
honey, banana
Oh, Jody.
muffins. No flour,
How can
no
you hold
sugar.
it?
Where's that? I'll get an item.
What are you gonna sit on?
You're gonna sit down.
Have a seat.
No, he wants a photograph.
John, that's very precarious on a ball like that.
Mom, I live life on the edge.
That thing is on it.
Why don't you get one of those pro cameras? What do they call them? You can put it in your mouth and tape yourself doing things like
Swallowing? Like chewing?
No. You hold it in your mouth and it videos you
Yeah.
like skiing and surfing.
Oh.
Pretty awesome.
Doesn't sound like a good idea at all.
No, it's pretty awesome. That 26-year-old guy who invented it is doing very well.
Very
You
good.
want a little piece?
Sure.
Ooh, did you bake those?
I did.
You have an extra chair?
Yeah, you want that?
Yeah. He's old enough to
Stay.
drink about now.
John,
This is
my boy,
Yeah.
come here. Take that chair and move it.
Here.
No, it's all right. I got it. I just feel like I'm sitting on cardboard.
You are. That is a
Ooh,
cardboard
nice
chair.
boots.
Listen, we've been offered $20,000 for that set.
That's a
No.
collector's item.
Thank you.
Dirty. Look at that plan. It's what?
I cannot see it.
You know, I just bought cowboy boots in Vegas.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Wow.
Oh,
What a beautiful plant.
Isn't that beautiful?
Well,
Good color, pot.
I thought your father and your mother came here without plants. I felt badly about it. Okay.
Jamie was telling us yesterday that she bought a pair, the girls also, bought boots at Costco
Oh, really?
that Mom ought to take a look at.
Oops.
Because the acupuncturist said she should wear very warm stuff on her feet.
These are good. What is this, like
Cereal.
Baltimore wheat or something?
No, it's ground up almonds that I
There we go.
grinded up this morning. And so there's no flour.
More
Honey, banana, a little bit of baking soda, cinnamon. That's it.
So your mother-in-law called yesterday, and Mom said hello, and Adele said, I have to hang up, I have another call.
You never get into a conversation, what? It's another call.
And she hung up.
Somebody more important.
But I guess she's all right.
She was probably checking to see how you were.
Yes, she was.
No, she's very nice.
She calls every once in a while.
Where did you live?
Great.
She's a great nurse. So what's up with you?
She's
Tons of
terrific.
stuff.
So what are
She's
you
really
doing
good.
with
She's
this?
terrific.
How old is she?
92.
You're capturing a moment.
Yeah? And then
Still
who's
on
gonna
high
watch it?
Hmm?
Who's interested in this
Still on
moment?
high heels?
No, she does walk with a cane. But she's very well made up, and her hair is always
The
done.
Fields family
And she has a
archive?
good life. The guys in the building, like this building, take care of her.
When I came here, I was saying,
Jody's boys are
their
very,
cousin Marcia,
very involved with her
Once
and
sent
very,
me
very helpful.
all kinds of
And go there all the
documents,
time.
and diagrams and things about the Frickin' Mountain House. I should have brought it.
And if she has to go somewhere, they take her.
But I
Jody and John go
take it
there
out.
once a week to take her out for dinner. So she's fine. She's really good.
She's an angry old woman.
She's an angry old woman. But other than that,
All her friends have died.
other than that, she's great.
She's always complaining. All her friends died. It's hard to be 92. I get all of that.
But we have to start all over again.
But you know what? What choice do you have? You have a certain amount of years left. You can make them good or you can make them full of complaints.
Yeah, but it's hard if
I
you
choose complaints.
if you have physical
problems.
I did not include that physical problem. You know what Grandma's friend said? She said, Beatty, what was, what is. Deal with what is, not with what was. I have half of Manhattan say that.
In just that way.
Yeah. There's one man in our building. What was.
With a Spanish accent.
Yeah.
But she was right. Her mother was always talking about Big 29th Street. And are you filming this? I've got a bathroom. Would you like to follow me?
I already have a camera in there.
She was always talking about Big 29th Street and Pearl and this one, and her friend said to her, Beatty, what was.
You know, this morning, I was going through the bag that you gave me of books and videos, old videos. So I had already unpacked the bag, the books, but the videos were still in there, and I picked something up and a piece of paper fell on the floor, and on that paper was a note that your mother wrote.
Really?
And I guess it was, she was labeling the video, what was on it. She said, the girls, Rosie, and a few other things. It was,
That's interesting.
yeah.
Really nice.
Fell out onto my floor.
What
I heard
was.
somebody on the radio the other day say, there are three things, I can't remember what the third one is, but never talk about it because nobody's interested. One is how you slept last night.
That was This American
But
Life.
that, yeah, the second was about your ailments, right? And what was the third one?
Dream, what you
What did
dreamt
you
about.
do?
Oh, what was your dream?
You know, that's one of the reasons I don't like to be with people our age. Because that's the conversation.
Yeah.
I got this pain, I got this, but I really don't care. I told my friend on the phone, I said, listen, is that thing on? Your pain hurts you more than it hurts me. So I really don't care. I got my own thing to worry about. I think that's true.
I think you have to make a pot of coffee.
Yes,
What?
coffee.
Have another pot of coffee.
Oh, sure.
Can you do that?
It's over there. No, I'm kidding.
I'll do it.
I have a friend who likes to tell detailed dreams. I mean, it's one thing to summarize your dream because it's somehow relevant to something.
When you have nobody to
Have no one
talk
to really talk to.
I remember Sybil said one time,
You're on camera.
I'm
but
on
she's-
camera, right, yeah. Sybil once said, and I thought it was one of the saddest things I ever heard. She said, what she has to give, nobody wants. What she has to give, you know, whether it's motherly love or.
But that has nothing to do with her being old. Nobody wanted her a long time ago.
But
That's
nobody,
sad.
you know, it's not that she had a
It's a
champion
it's a
job
problem, right?
that people
Yeah.
wanted her at, or there weren't children that really wanted her, or grandchildren that really wanted her, or a spouse that really wanted her, or anyone.
He died, right?
No, he's alive.
Sybil's husband?
Have a cup of tea,
Yeah.
Pop.
Okay, no.
He's alive, yeah.
Of probably the reunion or something.
I don't know, little this, little that.
I just forgot, you know, you once came to visit us when Max was a baby. I think Max was a baby, or maybe, who else, or somebody else was a baby and Max was a little boy.
Well, she had 3 babies.
And, Sarah was a baby and Max was a little boy. And you came to visit us and Max held Sarah and played with her. It was just the most darling, and you made a little album out of it on the surface one day.
Oh,
I
really?
really.
Oh.
It was the most darling pictures, and at the time, Max really wanted to hold the baby. He was just the sweetest boy, yeah. I remember how impressed we were with us.
Max is very good looking now, but he was a beautiful baby.
Oh, I remember Max.
Beautiful.
My boys are really good with kids.
Yeah.
I mean, Melissa had a birthday party
What do
for
you
Sean
need?
recently.
You want some ice cream or something,
You
John?
could see
No.
Michael and
Thank
Max laying on the floor with these kids. It was at an environmental center, so there's animals. Yeah, I
And
do
it's
too.
in Jean's fault.
Why?
Because she convinced me I should not walk around with shoes. Because she took her shoes off all the time. And it became such a habit, that's what I do.
And
my
everybody
children
who comes to my house
My
takes their
children
shoes
do
off
the
because they
same
see
thing.
us doing it.
Very
Not that I-
Japanese.
Yeah, and really it's cleaner.
Yes, yes.
But I don't require it. It's just, we all do it. My kids, everyone. Sean, the minute they walk in, the shoes are coming off.
Yeah.
And then my hair gets tied up, and I'm good to go.
Yeah, your body betrays you.
But we have, what's the alternative?
As I said to Harriet, well, Harriet said to me, now that we have all this money,
Yeah.
we can't go anywhere or
Can't
do
do
anything. Or do anything.
Can't
She said, do you feel rich? I said, no, son, neither do I.
The irony.
But it's really the truth.
That's right.
It's just as truth.
Yeah.
I mean, Jody and John want us to go to Israel. Could we go to Israel? We could probably walk. How could we go to Israel?
Oh,
Yeah.
Jody, don't be so nice to me, so lawyer.
Get it.
No,
All right, take it
I always
back.
like John. I mean, I love all my cousins. It's 'cause
Jody,
Robin
did you
doesn't
see the
like
picture of
that.
Adam?
Just because you love him doesn't mean you like him.
Did you see the picture of Adam
Adorable.
and Sydney?
Sydney?
You know, I did not know that was Sydney.
She looks
I thought it
gorgeous.
was his
Yeah.
date.
She looks.
She looks
Well,
super. You know why I told you?
Oh, you look
Harriet
cute.
Rushman's son and daughter-in-law went to a bar mitzvah there. Scotty and Gina and a friend who was transferred to Live. And the kid was bar mitzvah, and they went to the bar
Wait a
mitzvah.
minute.
That's a destination
Wait a
bar
minute.
mitzvah if I've ever heard one.
They had a friend who took off. They Scotty's friend left the US because he was in trouble.
Oh, I don't know.
That's exactly what happened. They didn't
Please,
get transferred.
Please be careful because where is your camera?
And they went, at the time, this was going back a little
So how do
way.
you know this story?
I know this.
I heard the story.
At the time, Dubai wasn't what it is today. It's, now it's very
They just
cosmopolitan. When?
2 years ago.
It's been this way for a while.
Well, maybe it's a different friend.
No, it's the same friend. Now that you told the story.
It wasn't 2 years ago.
Did Susan do it?
Susan really.
Susan was telling me about it at Jacob's bar mitzvah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So soon there'll be another bar mitzvah. And then Jordan will have a bar mitzvah.
That's great.
Was she?
Oh yeah, she's in Hebrew school.
She'll run down screaming.
Yeah, she'll carry on like a lunatic.
You know, they all rise to the occasion.
Jordan is
They do.
Kimberly's sister.
Yeah, dramatic.
And Kimberly learned it from Jamie Jacobson. Screaming at the top of their lungs.
Jacob Riley's daughter? They're all come, listen.
I once picked Kimberly up. She was screaming. You just can't believe I never heard screaming like that. And I picked her up and I carried her into her room and I threw her down on the bed and I
Small
said,
child abuse.
this is unacceptable behavior.
Yeah.
And I told Jamie and Brian, you stay in your room, don't come out. And you know what? She shut up and she's never done it since. And you know what?
She's
It's
also
mother.
30.
It was mother's influence. Lori had a terrible tick in her eye. She blinked. And Harriet said to mother, I don't know what to do about her. And she blinks all the time. And mother said, the next time you see her do that, smack her across the face. And Harriet said, oh, I can't do that to my child. And they were in A&S's on the escalator.
After she was cured.
And Lori started blinking, and Harriet took her hand and boom! And Lori never blinked again. And so Harriet said to Jamie, you know what Grandma told me? Why don't you do that? And Jamie won't do it.
Mother never had us anyway. I mean, I never had it, but mother didn't have it. She waited until Dad came home.
Exactly
She
what are you
said-
talking about. I'm just going to say that was
Yeah.
brutal behavior.
Yeah, but she didn't do the hit.
She
He
did.
did.
She did it all the way.
You know what? He not only started to hit Mike and I, he never hit him. He hit Mike and I, but then Grandma would go, leave them, but she was the one who instigated the whole thing.
He went overboard.
Oh,
Did you take
He used to threaten.
What?
disgust.
He did. Fred did.
Disgusting.
About
Are you kidding? You
fifteen
took that to be a
Very
good man.
scary, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Not that you're mind the old man,
But I want to hit
What
you.
time was your
Stop
date?
that?
I'll just call
Yeah.
it whenever.
Because we used to be at their house a lot, Lord.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I think we lived there one summer. And he used to get mean.
Yeah.
live with.
But you hit me a few times.
One time I hit you, Jody. Stop carrying on. You were 2 years old. You're now
Me too.
56. You were 2 years old. It was
When you
in
hit me with
Charlotte's
the
house.
hairbrush?
Yes.
Hairbrush.
And it wasn't a hairbrush. It was a slipper. And it was in Aunt Charlotte's house.
You're rewriting history.
You know what?
Well, now's the time to do it. What were the circumstances?
She was nagging and nagging.
And not at 2. I was
nagging.
sweet at 2. I think it was the later.
You were not. It had to be after Lori was born because then you got robbed.
Here, Mom, you drink this.
But
have any
Yes,
cranberry
I
juice?
hit you one, yeah, in the refrigerator, Jack.
Yeah, you do.
And I hit you one time, and you carry on like you were beaten. You don't look beaten.
She
I'll
was
tell you
beaten.
about beaten.
She was being.
I was not beaten. My father was beating.
But you were scary. You were very scared of
Well, you should have been.
That's what parents are supposed to
You
do.
had good reason. Why else am I a father?
When I counsel my students, and they'll say, I'm not gonna go to college right after high school, I'm gonna take a year off, and I said the same thing to my father. However, the difference is I was deathly afraid of him, and he said, you'll go to college, and I
I
went
didn't
to
let
college.
Lori go right away. She was
I'm
too
glad
young.
I didn't take time
But
off.
it was the best thing that ever happened to you.
Where did
Yes,
she,
I tell them that.
what did she do? Lori took
No,
her
she
Lori
graduated
got
high
at
school.
16 and a half.
No, she graduated half a year early.
Oh, in January.
And we didn't want her to go away.
Yeah.
So we made her take a job in a local Friendlies.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we would go in there and we would see her wiping up the grease and I said, Harriet, that's great. And then she went away. And she met him, who you call. But Jody was older and I, through a friend, got her an interview at BU and she went to, you told
I
her.
remember.
And she went to BU and it made her the woman she is today.
Actually, when I tell students that I went to Boston University, they're very impressed. And I said, don't be impressed, believe me.
Why?
Because in those years, it wasn't as impressive as it is now.
The hell, it cost $10,000 a year in those years. That was like a
I
hobby.
know.
And you were very good and you were
I will
dean's
say,
list.
most of the Great Neck kids who went to BU went to the Basic Studies program, which is the way you got in if your grades weren't good
Right.
enough, and I didn't go through that
There
program.
you go.
So I don't know how that exactly happened.
I know how it happened exactly. You know how I got Lori's birth certificate? By the way, her fake birthday's coming up. You know how I got her birth certificate changed by a forger?
Can we start with why?
Oh, you got my grades changed?
No. No. I met someone who was on the,
No, your friend.
yeah, Joe Banks.
Banks.
Yeah. And he told me he could get you in. And he got you in. And I wanted very much for you to go, what?
What did you pay for that?
For her?
To get her?
Was $10,000 a year.
No, she needs the bribe.
I know what she needs, and I didn't pay anything. But I wanted very badly for Jody to go away to school. And the school she wanted to go to was Boston University.
I wanted to be in Boston.
And I would
did
have
not
done
care.
anything, I really would have,
Yeah.
to get her into that school. And I happened to be talking to somebody who worked for me, and he said, oh, I could get her in. I said, well, man, go for it.
Hope you sent her a basket of fruit out.
I tell you, and it was a great thing.
What
for
college
Jody.
did you go to, John? Tufts?
Tufts.
Who else? Did Michael Sugarman go to Tufts?
No, he went down
No,
south.
Chapel Hill.
Yeah,
North
Chapel Hill.
Carolina, yeah. No,
I woke up one day and I said to Harry, you know, I had a dream. Is that their mom?
no. Dad,
And the dream
Go in the other
was,
room.
Martin Luther
I had
King.
all this
You
money.
think Martin Luther King had a dream?
Nobody hear this one?
I had all this money, and the money was in one bank. And the bank only gets $500,000.
Yeah.
So I really got panicky. I figured if we lose this money, it's all over. We have no
Yeah.
money.
I have an extra room.
So Brian and Peter and Harriet and I got together. And we decided to divvy up all this money in various banks
Yeah.
so we'd have all this protection, which we did. Yes, Saturday, I got a correspondence from the bank that Peter put the money into. And it said they were charging me $13 a month. For what? It's my money. And I'm not doing anything with it.
What bank was that?
Capital, not Capital One. It's some bank that Peter's company does business with. So I said to Brian, quick, get me out of that one and put it into an annuity. I don't want it.
How dare
Smells
they?
good.
That's very spicy, which is my favorite mustard in all times. So that's what happened.
What was that?
That's the elevator.
Really?
Yeah, you agree. If somebody
No,
called
it's
for it.
not.
No, it's out here. If it's out there, it's the bus that goes to the railroad. I'll put it in. to the station.
So how's your job, Aunt Linda?
Unbelievable.
Unbelievably
Great, fabulous.
fabulous.
I moved to City Hall now. I never worked at City Hall.
Where is it?
It's really fabulous.
Where's City Hall?
Yes.
Right, a block from my house. It's a
Oh,
minute and a half commute. I look at my clock and I have a 9 o'clock meeting, it's 5 of 9, I walk out of the house. I'm at my meeting.
Wow.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
I look at the clock and it's 5 of 9,
Yeah.
when I'm home, right? And I have a 9 o'clock meeting. I walk out of the house at 5 of 9, and I'm one of the first people at the meeting. I'm there in a minute and a half.
Oh my God, that's,
How about right?
that is very nice.
Fabulous.
I have a good commute, but not that.
You know, I have an accountant who keeps telling me he wants to meet me in Newton Center.
And where?
Newton Center.
Who?
The guy in New Hampshire. Remember Dennis and I used to go to
Yeah.
New Hampshire?
Poor Dennis, they were around.
Poor Dennis. So maybe one day I'll do that.
I'll do that, get on the train.
Well, they will come up to see you. I don't really care to see you. How's that tomato?
What happened to Dennis?
Died.
Looks tomato-ish.
I always liked him.
I liked him too. He used to come down and live in his house all the time. Pick me up, drop me off.
Everyone's made a fabulous dinner for your father birthday. I made a Middle Eastern pie. You really take a huge platter and put spot copperhead, you know, that Greek thing, dough. And then you make some sort of a lamb.
Is that good?
Minced lamb.
Thank
you.
And just lost it. And your father was there with more than Dennis. Somebody-
Yeah, I think Stuart was there with us.
And I just brought this thing and it was just,
I think.
I don't cook it anymore.
No? My friend yesterday told me the secret to making the greatest turkey ever on Thanksgiving, which I personally don't like turkey, but she said if you brine the turkey,
Yes.
Soak it in
brine,
salt
and
water.
salt.
It absorbs, that's kosher.
Yeah.
It absorbs the salt, the water.
You grind the turkey?
Brine.
They grind and brine.
Brine, beat.
Oh.
with salt and she said pickle seasoning or something.
Probably sounds pretty good.
Yeah, and then she uses wine.
We're gonna have a great turkey because she's catering it, so that's it.
What are you doing for Thanksgiving? Okay, you're not cooking.
Well, I cook for special occasions. Rosh Hashanah, I cook for Passover, I cook for.
Does anybody contribute?
Do it Julie house. And if, and any of the women that comes, always comes.
And he doesn't know any women who cook, so that's it.
So why don't you cook? How's your place, by the way? Is it done?
It's done. There's tiny little things.
We're all invited to stay there at the,
I had a big World Series party, everyone came. Booze and food,
Oh,
people.
yeah, right.
you
World
didn't invite
Series.
us.
No
Yankee
fun.
fan.
Yeah, really.
They truly is.
Boston was pretty.
How many people live in your
Oh,
house?
There's 3 people live in my house. Me and 2 roommates, 2 housemates.
But you're on different
Do you
floors.
have a-
Yeah, one's in the basement, one's on the first floor.
Same guy?
The second floor is the kitchen common
I
room.
never lost it.
And at this fireplace,
Fire.
big flat screen
We heard
TV.
on
And
the
then
radio
the next
yesterday,
floor is my bedroom.
Alorunda,
being
what's his name?
Four
Alessandro.
bedroom.
Alessandro.
On top of
And
it.
Harriet, oh, that's Linda's person. I don't think so.
Nice.
I think that's a fairly common name.
I'm allowed.
It's really
We
good.
were having dinner at my house, and a friend of mine said that she was about to do construction, and she didn't, a single woman, she didn't know where she was going to live during construction on her house. I said, well, come live here. She said, really? I said, sure, really. So she's in the process of packing up her house, she's expanding